5 minutes. That's too long. Let me change that. So you can type. Myron, how do I change this? Yeah, I have a customization. There we go. Let's change it to 1 minute. Yeah, that way if you're not a subscriber, all you have to do is subscribe, wait 1 minute, and then you can type. This live stream will be about the Canadian trade war, the tariffs stuff, and also the stock market. And then I'll allow people to call in. Let me give you the link to call in. All you have to do is click on the link and then give me the last four of your social security, your mother's maiden name, and the name of your first pet, and then I'll let you on. Hey, Reed, good to see you. There's the link to call in. First of all, I just want to say that the Canadians owe Donald J. Trump a lot of gratitude because Donald Trump has single-handedly united Canadians together. It's amazing what he can do. It's true. I talked to my dad recently. He lives in Manitoba. I was born in Canada, so I could be near my mother. And yeah, the Canadians it seems like the vast majority of them really dislike the United States now, and they're united, and they're proud. They're finally proud to be Canadian. And it's all because of Donald Trump. Canadians ought to thank Donald Trump for that unity that he has brought out of people. I'm doing some more adjustments here. Okay, so Canada will never, ever be able to win a trade war with the United States. Why is that? First of all, I would love someone to call in and disagree with that. Can hardly hear me. You know what? I know why. Because of that. Is it better? Let me crank this up a bit. Yeah. See, I had an extension on Chrome, and then Chrome stopped supporting it. And now I'm back to the same problem of my volume automatically adjusting itself whenever I open up Whereby. Remember I had that problem about, I don't know, a year ago? And then that extension fixed it. And now I got the same problem. Live stream is a lot of work. Now it's too much. Does anyone win a trade war? It depends what your goals are, guess who? But right now, what's the GDP of the United States? It's 28 trillion. What's the GDP of Canada in US dollars? I think it's 2 trillion. What's the trade deficit between Canada and the United States? It's about, depending on who you ask, 40 to 70 billion per year, meaning Canada sells more to the United States than they buy from the United States, so they have a surplus. So that means 50, 60, 70 billion dollars a year of US dollars are going into Canada, net. That decreases our GDP a little bit and increases theirs a lot. How much? By roughly 2%. If Trump said tomorrow, no more trade with Canada, just zero, no more trade, would it hurt the United States? Yes. Could the United States survive? Yes. Would it hurt Canada? Way more. There'd be an immediate recession because their GDP growth last year, I think in 2024, wasn't over 2%. And 2% is their trade surplus with the United States. There'd be an instant recession. There'd be tons of layoffs. There'd be economic demise. They'd be kaput. So Canada's a little bit like the Ukraine right now when it comes to Trump. They don't have the cards. They're like Zelensky. They don't have the cards. Yes, Canada can hurt the United States, especially with oil and maybe some electricity in the Northeast. but the United States can work around that. They could even, if they had to, buy oil from Saudi Arabia for a time, and while they're drilling and making petroleum refineries and so forth. What was the the purpose of starting the tariffs and then stopping them a day or two later? To manipulate Canada. So I think you're referring to last month when Trump announced a tariff. It said, I'm giving you this tariff because I want more security on the northern border. They promised to do it, and they actually started doing steps doing it. And said, okay, thanks, we're going to delay it a month. Tariffs are a great way to manipulate countries to do what you want them to do. I'm a Canadian who would love to see the U.S. become the 51st state. I'm glad you brought that up, Wonder Bucket, because here's the real question that I'm not sure what the real answer is. Like, if Trump were here right now and I was to ask him, I honestly don't know how he would answer this. And the question is, do you really, really want Canada as your 51st state? Like, assuming Trump tells the truth. And how much of the rhetoric he's been saying is negotiation and how much of it he actually believes. Because does the United States really want Canada? I mean, it would be a pragmatic nightmare to have Canada become the 51st state. What do you do with all the social insurance? What do you do with the debt that Canada has? What do you do with health care that Canada has? It'd be a nightmare. Now, here's another problem. How many seats would Canada get in Congress? And are those seats more likely to be Democrat or Republican? Democrat. Those senators coming out of Canada, 2 senators, are they more likely to be Democrat or Republican? Democrat. Canada leans way more left than the United States. So if Trump were to forcibly take Canada through economic demise, like, do you want them? They're going to hate you, number one. And they're going to want to see Republicans go out of power. So I really don't think that's the plan. Even though some Canadians believe that Trump's out to get them and annex them to the 51st state, I don't think that's the plan. I think the plan is, and I'm not too confident about this, but I think the plan is to get the Canadians to bring that trade deficit down to zero and maybe even in our favor. Because for the last 4 years, the trade deficit to Canada has been over 200 billion, probably closer to 300 billion. So the goal is to get that to zero and maybe even a surplus in our favor for a few years. And then have them seal up the border to the north like we did to the south. And I think if Canada does that, Trump's happy and the tariffs will come off. But I think the timing of this is interesting. I think Trudeau just left and a guy named Carney just came in as Prime Minister of Canada. And the Liberals, the left, were doing poorly in the polls prior to this tariff talk. Now they're doing better. I think Trump kind of wants the Liberals to have power in Canada, and then destroy them, and then make it sound like I will only deal with conservatives, and then a conservative gets into power, and then all the tariffs go away, and everything's fine. How's my volume? Jeff, how are you?
Oh, 1 sec.
Yeah, turn off the YouTube tab.
Audio.
Can you hear me?
No, you're not.
There you go. I don't think I'm getting any feedback. Are you a Canadian?
I am.
Yeah, you look like one. That's a joke. Can I show your face? Oh, and then I lost him. See, that's the Canadian internet for you. Terrible. My audio settings are not working. Okay, see if you can fix it and call back. Room's open for anyone. You might be able to beat Jeff in. And I'll try to keep the call short in case we get more than a few. Hey, Kathy, good to see you. How is an audit done to the point of firing people just 4 weeks in? Oh, I got so much feel sorry for them in you, Reagan Rays. Not fair. People are fired. People in the government are learning what it's like to be in the private sector for once. Trump's position is basically the Monroe Doctrine 2.0. Yeah, but I don't understand how Canadians think they have any power here. How they have any leverage. Like when Trump says jump, their only question should be how high. Now, if you're a Canadian, call in and tell me where I'm wrong. Why do Canadians call electricity hydro? That's easy. Because hydro means water, like hydrogen, H2O, and most of the, well, a great deal of the electricity produced in Canada is from dams, water dams. Money Talk is born. I want to see Doug make Christians cry. I have no desire to make Christians cry anymore. I really don't. Oh, but we'll talk about the stock market a little bit. Michael Shermer, he's a well-known skeptic. He was complaining and whining how the markets are going down and how, Trump's to blame for that. I want the markets to plummet. I want them to go down 20, 30%. At least 50% would be great. Why? Because I'm sitting on cash and I like to re-enter. And my son's sitting on a pile of cash. He saved so much money from his job. And my daughter saved so much money. And right now they're in bonds. And I advised them to stay in bonds like a year ago. And so far their bonds are outperforming the stock market. And yeah, it would be nice if the markets dropped 50%. So if someone complains about the markets, they're sitting on very little cash. And if you don't have a lot of cash and you don't have a lot of money, odds are you're not in the markets anyhow. So it's not really hurting the little guy if the stock market goes down. And if you're at retirement age or close to retirement age, what the heck are you doing with growth stocks in your portfolio? I mean, you should be well diversified. You should be low risk. You should be mostly in bonds anyhow. Held to maturity. Just collect your interest payments. Or you should be in utility stocks that pay a huge dividend. You should see the markets drop 10% and say, I don't care. The people who care the most are the young people who have some cash and they're trying to day trade or something and beat the market. Doug, serious question. I opened up a Roth IRA last year. Was that the right move? No. In my opinion, you should not invest into, especially because Trump's in power now. You never know what's going to happen. Because once you put it into a Roth or any type of government retirement plan thing, that money is there. It's frozen. If you pull it out, you'll get taxed big time. Doug thinks paper losses don't matter. They matter if you have borrowed and you're using your portfolio as collateral. Yeah, this is not financial advice. Do whatever you want with your own money. Hey, Ryan.
Hello. Hey.
How are you? Oh, you're Canadian.
Doing-
I can tell from the first two words.
No,
You're
I'm
not?
not. No. Remember me? I'm from the home office.
No, I don't remember you. Like the home office in Wichita is so huge for the PineCreek channel.
Yeah,
I can't
true,
keep up.
True.
Yeah.
Anyway, I wanted to ask you some questions about what your thoughts on like different pardonings, I guess that Trump has done.
Yeah,
So
for the really violent offenders, I was against the pardon, but open to commuting their sentence. And I would say for the majority of the January 6thers, I was okay with both the pardoning and commuting.
what do you think about pardoning? What's his name? Ross Ulbricht, the Silk Road guy, selling drugs on the dark web.
And what do I think about him? What did he do on January 6th?
Oh, he wasn't a January 6th guy, as far as I know. I think he was in jail. I think he was in prison.
Oh, I don't know.
Okay. I just think it's interesting that he pardoned this very specific person who I think I see it as a way of doing a favor to libertarians, but I don't know how you see it, because this guy, he was selling drugs on the dark web. He was running the Silk Road website. You can look it up, and Trump made
if he was really, really bad, then
to-
I'm against it. Even if he was
Yeah.
really good, then I'm for it.
So
the Clinton
why
answer.
do you think why do you think Trump pardoned him?
I don't know.
Okay, what about how do you feel about Andrew Tate lifting the? I guess I don't know exactly his situation. They lifted the travel restrictions. I think he was.
He's a U.S.
found-
citizen, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
I don't actually know his situation, but
So
he was.
So technically, he has the right to be in this country.
Sure, but he's. I think he was found guilty of human trafficking, if I'm not right.
Yeah, you're not right. He is.
Okay.
I don't think he's been convicted of any felony.
Okay.
Not yet. Anyhow.
Yeah. So, I mean, are you just in favor of him being brought back and tried but not pardoned?
Andrew Tate? Is he even
Yeah.
being indicted in the United States? No. What are you talking about?
I guess I don't. Maybe I should do more research on that. I don't totally know what the situation is with him, but let me see. Andrew Tate.
You going down a list?
Yeah.
Oh, is Canada on the list?
No.
Oh, okay. Nobody cares about Canada or the United States.
What do you think about the Eric Adams case being dropped?
If you're going to ask me about all these cases, I know very little about them, and all my answers I don't know.
Okay, all right.
So cross off all those things on your list that have to do with what I think about pardoning so and so.
Yeah, I just think that it's kind of telling that there's this pattern on the right of signaling that it's okay to do all these things as long as you're either a right-wing podcaster in the case of Andrew Tate, or you're a libertarian guy in the case of Ross Ulbricht, or if you're if you agree to enforce the laws that Eric Adams had no right to refuse enforcing.
So Trump bad for those reasons. What about whataboutism? What about Jill Biden? I heard she actually committed murder 5 years ago. But now she's pardoned from it. Did you know that?
Yeah, I don't think she should have been pardoned.
I mean, if you're going to talk
I don't think you should have. I don't think that the president should just be like giving out preemptive pardons on his whole family.
Right. The thing is, the key word that you just said there was preemptive.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's, I believe, has never been done before in history. So if you're talking about pardons, at least you can say, okay, this person committed this crime. I think the jury got it wrong for this reason, or I think the sentence was too long, whatever.
Yeah.
So therefore I pardon. But now you've got a situation where President Biden pardons people
I
without
think that's
any
terrible.
specifics.
Yeah, I think that's terrible.
Yeah, it's
I'm
terrible.
with you on that.
Okay.
But I just think the case that I see, I think Biden did that mostly out of fear that he would be that Trump would weaponize the Justice Department and try to drag him and his family through legal stuff. But I still think it was wrong, because I think that if they're guilty of crimes, they should go, by all means, go through the process. But
What else do you
I
have
just
on your
think
list?
the difference with Trump is that he's doing this specifically with people that are supporting him. I think it's very it's not impartial.
Okay. What else you got on your list?
I guess I was curious what you thought about some of the different, like, free speech, I guess, issues. I think so. Trump had I saw it as kind of a slap suit against 60 Minutes for saying things he didn't like. And I think he had, cutting off funding for schools that have, pride flags and stuff like that. I see that as just the government getting involved when it doesn't need to.
Okay. Well, thank you
When
for
it
your
comes to
opinion.
speech. Yeah, I mean, but do you think that's fine with removing federal funding for school for having a pride flag up?
Yeah, actually, I do. I'm
Mhm.
I'm fine with it. I detest that type of activism so greatly that I'm okay if they suffer greatly by removing a flag.
Well, by removing the funding, but
Yeah.
sure.
Do you know what the federal funding is for a school, like in percent terms?
No.
Take a guess.
You mean like what percentage of schools
You got to, yeah,
of schools on average, public schools, is funded by federal?
yeah. How much money do they get from the federal government?
I think it depends on, well, okay, I guess the average. I don't know, 20%.
Yeah, I think it's closer to 10.
Okay.
Yeah, so no biggie. If a school loses 10%, they'll survive. Just have a few more, what do you call, like fundraisers at school or something like that.
Hmm.
They probably don't even want the government's fingers in their pie anyhow. I'm totally okay with the federal Department of Education going away.
Do you agree with JD Vance when he says that professors are the enemy?
Some are. Depend on enemy to what is the question, I guess.
I guess I don't know what he meant by that, but I don't know. I guess I imagine he means in a culture war sense.
Yeah,
I assume that's what he means, but
I think the numbers, the stats are there. Like it's a vast majority of college professors lean pretty far left, just not like left. They're like progressive woke type of left. I would not give my children money to go to university with 80% far left wing liberals in it. Progressives, I should say.
yeah. Would you be opposed to that, even if it was like I don't know, like MIT for like a engineering degree or something?
Yeah, no, that's different. Yeah.
Okay.
The hard sciences are at least a little bit better in that regard, where you won't have too many wacko people.
Yeah, I mean, I went into hard sciences as well, and I felt like I didn't get any of that. So
Yeah.
I would personally say that people shouldn't be that concerned if they're going into like an engineering degree, for example. Like, you'll have to take English, but that's about, that's one class. So
Yeah.
I think people get kind of worked up over that, or get kind of freaked out by sending their kids to a woke college. But if they go into engineering, for example, I don't think they have anything to worry
Yeah, but
about.
what percentage of students coming out of high school go into STEM?
That's a good question. I don't know.
20%
But
maybe?
yeah. As far as like cuts and stuff, like budget cuts, I feel like a lot of this has been done pretty sloppily with, you know, whether it's people being fired and then immediately rehired again. I see that as like very unprofessional. I mean, I wouldn't in like a private sector. Uh,
Well, there's probably a
I
reason
would
for
think
it.
that's to fire him and rehire him.
Yeah, like to reset the contract, reset dates, whatever.
Hmm. I guess I haven't heard a reason why, but maybe that's the case.
Yeah,
Um,
don't assume the worst of the administration,
I
right?
guess don't assume the best either.
Yeah. Well,
That cuts both ways.
in my opinion, I'd be okay with and I know this is probably unconstitutional, like the Congress would have to do it. But I'd be okay with cutting everything but Social Security, Medicare, or Medicaid, and defense. Just cut everything, and then rebuild, and then start again.
Okay. So you're against cutting Social Security. I've heard that being, a topic discussed a lot lately.
Yeah, Social Security and Medicaid, Medicare are a different type of government program because people specifically pay in according to how much they've earned. So it's not like even
Right.
It's not like the Department of Defense or Department of Education.
Yeah, you're kind of getting your investment back, like,
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
I get you there.
It's money owed to them by contract.
Yeah, I agree with that. I've got a hypothetical for you. This is just a morality question.
Okay.
Say you're going on a walk and there is a child drowning in a shallow pond, and you can go out and you can rescue the child, no problem, no risk to you. The only thing is you'll have to damage your $30 shoes, and you'll have to get some new shoes. Would you go out and save the child?
Yes.
Do you think that we have an obligation to save the child?
We
People generally, if people in your situation, if they were someone like you, do you think someone like you has an obligation to go out?
someone like me, then yes,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's based on your moral standard.
So would you say that like a serial killer wouldn't have a moral obligation to go out?
To me, that question wouldn't even make sense. I'm a naturalist. I don't think there's obligations from a god. So,
well, you can have a naturalist.
I would prefer words like "it would be nice if they did."
Okay.
But like when you say obligation, I guess what you're really asking is, should they go to jail if they don't save them? That would be a better question, I think.
I'm not sure if that's what I'm trying to get at, though. I think what I'm trying to get at is, but it does depend on what your morality is. So do you think that there are moral obligations?
Yes, but it's based on your moral standard. So people have different moral standards, so and different groundings and basis.
Yeah, okay. So I guess my approach to this stuff, and actually I think this is something that kind of annoys theists a little bit, is that I usually say that morality is objective, and what's the right one? It's consequentialism. And why is it that way? It's just a brute fact. That's just the way morality is.
Yeah,
And
I would agree with you.
I
Except
think
for the
they find
objective
that
part.
annoying.
Yeah, I'm happy to admit to the theist that my morality is subjective. Although I do think there's certain things, like the classic example, torturing a baby for fun. Is that always wrong in every context, in every situation? Like there's things like that it's, if you're going to say that morality is objective, there's a prime example of where it would be. But in most things in life, context matters. Where you are in history matters. If you and I lived 3,000 years ago, and I asked you, hey, Ryan, what do you think about slavery? You said, what's the problem with it? I guarantee you would answer that.
Right. Yeah. So I guess to me, the differentiating between objective and subjective is a matter of just asking the person, do you think torturing a baby for fun would be wrong, even if everyone in the world thought it was okay? If you answer no, it would still be wrong, then that means it's objective.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay. So would you say that if everyone in the world thought it was okay to torture a baby for fun, then it would be okay?
No, because I would say, like, are you saying even me as well?
Um,
Because then the
I
answer
guess,
is rhetorical, right? I mean, it's a rhetorical question. But if, like, you're saying everybody but me,
yeah, let's say everybody but you.
no, then I would say I disagree with everybody on the planet.
Yeah, you say you disagree, that's obvious, but is it wrong,
Yeah, I would say it's
is
wrong.
the question. Yeah, and but you think that I guess it sounds like you only think that it's wrong, y you have to phrase it in a way where you say, "According to you, it's wrong."
Yeah,
You have to phrase it that way. You
exactly.
wouldn't just say, "It is wrong."
What other way would I phrase it?
You could say, the objective morality way of phrasing it is to say, torturing a baby for fun is wrong. The action is wrong.
Yeah, and then if someone says
Not someone's view, is
right, but
this
it's
way.
just semantics. It's just words. Like if you were to say it is wrong, and I say I disagree, how do you figure out
Mhm.
who's right?
Yeah, I mean, it comes back to, my view is that you just say, "Well, let's look at consequentialism since that's the objective moral foundation,"
Right, and
you know?
some you could imagine a moral dilemma where
Yeah.
you have better consequences by torturing a baby.
Yeah, absolutely.
The reason why torturing a baby for fun is a great example is not because of the torturing part. It's because of the for fun part.
Right.
It's the reason why you're torturing.
Yeah. Yeah, so I guess one of the reasons why I asked this question was I was kind of trying to get your view on this because I know a lot of people will say, people are not obligated to, and I think they do it because they fear the implications that, well, if they say yes, you have to save this child, and spend $30 to save their life. That's going to imply that we need to spend money on foreign aid to help children, spend $30 on bug nets to prevent deaths from malaria. And they're worried
Yeah,
about
yeah,
that implication.
yeah. That's a great point, and I do believe that there comes a point where the cost does outweigh the benefit.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. Like, you can always spend more money from, like, an engineering perspective, to make a bridge safer, and at some point, we say, it's safe enough," even though we know someone may die from some of these bridges at some point,
Like, let's say
Um
the total GDP of the whole world is 1 penny, and it costs $30 now to save that child.
Right.
Is it worth
Yeah,
it?
that would be detrimental. Like, it applies to you because you have a little bit of money to spare. But I think that the situation that reality is in right now is that it does cost pennies to prevent deaths from malaria, and it costs dollars to buy coffee. And we find ourselves in this situation where people are
Okay,
preferring a coffee over saving lives.
okay. I think I know where you're going with this. And where you're going with this is that the government ought to do these have an obligation to do these types of things, right? Is that where you're going with this?
Yeah.
Yeah. Why is the government obligated to do it, not the private sector?
Well, I think the reason why is because the government can, because you could say, why not just individuals donate? Why the people who care, they can just donate. And I would say that just ends up being like a tax on the kind. And I don't think that, the burden should only fall on the kindest segment of the population. I think it should fall on just everyone. It should just be the cost of doing business. It's just part of the cost of living. If you can't,
Okay, I hear your answer. What do you think is better, though? Do you think it is better for people to be forced to help or to willingly help?
I think that it's better for someone to choose to help, but I think if you're comparing two situations where someone can choose to help but no one does, or someone's forced to help but we do help, I'd rather go with that option.
Okay. And with your malaria example, do you think the government has to be involved because the private sector is not doing it?
Yeah, I think so.
You've heard of the Bill Gates Foundation?
I think there's no. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a private foundation.
Sure, and they're doing some work to help. I think
Doing
that's
some
a good thing
work?
to do. Yeah, I
They're
mean,
doing a lot of work.
I guess. Yeah. I just mean like it's not. Malaria is far from fully funded. You know what I mean? Like this problem is far from funded to the degree that it could be to maximize its good. I think that we still have the situation where a few more pennies could save a few more lives.
Sure, but those pennies add up. There's
Yeah, they do.
Would you rather save an African or an American? If you could only save one. Two.
I
an
think
African's
that
about
is
to die from
a
malaria.
perfectly
and an
coin
American.
flip.
A
No, I
coin
think
flip. You think it's a coin flip?
I think so. I mean, knowing nothing else about them.
Okay, that's the difference
Like-
between you and me. Like,
Okay.
I think that sometimes there's no problems with tribalism. It
Mhm.
helps. We've evolved.
Yeah.
We evolved with tribalism to help us survive.
Yeah, because you could pose that even stronger and say
Your child.
your own brother.
Yeah.
Your child. Yeah, and I would say from a like consequentialist point of view, those things are weighed evenly. Whether it's someone really close to you or whether it's someone very far.
You would say even in that case, it's still evenly.
Yeah.
Well, something's wrong with you. Have you been to a doctor?
I don't think this is one situation where I think that our intuitions are wrong. Like there's nothing wrong with me because I have the same intuition as you, but I just go further and say the math doesn't check out. Like what's wrong? What's
okay? I'm going to be very honest with you. I don't believe you. I don't believe you had actually in real life behaved that way.
Oh no, I'll give you that. Like I probably wouldn't.
Okay, so what you're doing now, if you agree with me that practically you would behave the same as I would and save your own child's life before a neighbor's or even someone in another country, then basically what you're doing is you are doing a type of virtue signaling that this is what we ought to do and this is such a great virtue to have. That's what you're doing.
Well, I guess, would you call it virtue signaling for any situation where someone says, we should do better, but admits that they don't?
We're not talking about just simply doing better. Like the example we just discussed was if you had a choice between saving your own child's life and the child of a stranger in another continent, who would you save?
Yeah.
You and I would both save our own child first, without apology, without feeling even the tiny bit upset.
I guess, I mean, I don't know if I'd go that far. I'd probably feel a little upset, but
No, you wouldn't. If it's truly a moral dilemma between saving one of two lives, you would say, I choose to save the life of my loved one. Because if you chose someone else, then your loved one's dead. You would feel zero remorse and you would make the exact same decision 1,000,000 times in a row.
Okay, I think we're just using like different terminology here, but yeah, I think that's what I would do. But do you understand where I'm coming from? Like, I think there's a difference between what we ought to do and what people actually do. I mean, I don't think I'm saying anything that outlandish.
Well, now we're getting into philosophy, and I hate philosophy. I hate philosophers.
Okay, yeah.
But this is the is-ought problem, right? You can't get an ought from an is, in my opinion. And so this whole thing of ought,
Sure.
what we ought to do. Well, who or what is the oughter is causing this oughtness?
I mean, if you believe in any morality at all, I mean, you're already believing in some of these oughts.
The closest you can get to an ought, in my opinion, is you have a goal and you have, let's say, only one clear path to get to that goal. And then if you say, I want this goal, and there's only one path to get to that goal, then you ought to take that path. That's when oughts, I think, make sense to me.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I guess I feel like I'm making a fairly simple, base assumption that, we ought to do whatever maximizes utility. People would disagree, of course, but, I don't think that's a crazy assumption.
But people have different
you can
subjective views on what is the best way to maximize utility.
They
And
do.
some
yeah.
people even disagree on what that utility is.
hmm Yeah, no, I don't think it's like a black and white thing by any means. Like, I don't think it's a solved problem. I don't think there's calculus you can just plug into a formula and get the right answer. But I guess the purpose for bringing this up, though, like the overarching point was about, do we have this obligation to save lives? And I guess I just don't know exactly where you stand on that still. Like,
The quick and easy answer is no.
US,
The quick and
yeah,
easy
okay.
answer is no.
And is it
If
is
that's
it
if
just
that's all
because
if that's the way you're framing it, without like what's the cost in saving that life?
yeah,
Is there a
so
trade-off?
yeah, no, and I'm
And Ryan,
conceding
is
that
that
there are
life
trade-offs.
even worth saving? There are some people who, in my opinion, would make the world a better place if they were dead.
Yeah, sure, but that would be evaluated on a case by case basis.
Right.
But generally, but
And that
just
gets
pick
rid
a
of the
random
ought.
person.
That
You would
gets rid of.
rather save their life. Just pick a random person, and most likely you'd want their life to be saved. And you personally are willing to give up $30,
Yeah.
to save their life. But when it comes to a larger scale, hey, what if we tried to solve this problem by, taxing everyone $30 to save this life? Now you're not okay with it.
Right.
Yeah. And I don't know. I think that's a contradiction.
Well, it's not a contradiction. It's a value judgment.
But I think I guess the way I would phrase it as a contradiction is that in one situation you're saying life is worth $30, in another situation you're saying it's
No.
not.
You said the word. You used the phrase "tax people to save that life for $30." Tax people $30.
Yeah.
There's another option that people freely give $30 to save the life.
Yeah, there is. I just think that
Why did you
I
remove
see
that
that as a
option?
I see that as a tax on the kind.
It's not a tax on the kind. It's a free will.
I mean, it's
There's no threat of
choosing,
jail if you don't do it, but there is a threat of jail if you don't pay your taxes.
I guess I don't see there being like a huge difference between funding something like that with taxes and funding.
Okay, let's get to the basics of capitalism versus socialism. What is a better way to help someone? So let's say you have a neighbor who lives right next door to you, and something tragic happens, and they are in dire need of help, and you are in a situation where you can help.
Mm-hmm.
Is it better for them to get help from the federal government or from you directly?
I guess it maybe depends, but the
What does
reason
it
why I
depend?
lean.
What does it depend on?
Well, it depends on like, am I just helping them by like walking over and helping them mow their lawn and just giving them some of my time, or am I? I guess I lean towards the government because then that burden is shared across everyone. It's not just all falling on one
Whoa.
person.
Whoa. But in this hypothetical, you have the ability to help this person, and you don't need anybody else's help. You would still
Yeah, I guess
choose the
I'd
government.
rather have like a fairer distribution of the burden.
Okay, so let's say you and I live together, and our neighbor is in
Yeah.
dire need of $100. If they don't get $100, they lose their left arm.
It'd be better for us to split it 50-50 rather than
okay.
you do 100.
Now, here's this my question. I say no. I really don't like that neighbor. I don't care if he loses his arm. And you say, but Doug, no, let's help this guy. $100, we can save his left arm. So your choices are you give with me not, or the government.
Yeah. I guess one reason I'll push back on this hypothetical is that when we have a single person and you personally know that he's a horrible murderer, then I think that's different than talking about like a global problem like malaria that just affects people.
Well, why are you talking? We're not talking about malaria or murderers. We're talking about our neighbor.
Well, you said you don't like him, and I pushed it a little further and said, what if you don't like him because he's a murderer? Like, if I have the special information, we can make exceptions based on specific details we happen to know.
Instead of having it shared through the government.
I mean, I may choose to do that.
Would you do that?
But okay, sorry. Say the hypothetical. I'm spending $100 to help him do what?
To save his left arm. Let's say he's diabetic.
Yeah, I would do that. That seems like a very
so the question
small
is,
amount of money to save an arm.
Now okay, great. Next step is, what is better for you to do it directly, or go through the government to get him the $100? What's better?
I'd say the government, because then it's not one person having to pay this a huge fee. It's one penny, one fraction of a penny across tons of people.
Okay, but what's the downside of having the government do it?
Well, in practical, terms, there's the downside is, they might have to file paperwork and wait a month to get approval.
Yes.
Yeah, there's inefficiencies from that.
It's way more efficient for the private sector to help people than the government to do it. For the exact reason you just admitted.
Yeah. So I guess for a problem like malaria, do you think smaller groups could handle the problem better than a larger scale effort? I mean, to me, that's a global problem.
Yeah, the answer is yes. I think I would dare to say in all things, the private sector can do a better job than the government.
Should we abolish the CDC and just let private people figure out how to mitigate disease spreading across the world?
There's some exceptions. CDC is probably not the best one. I would say the best one is the military, because do we really want private citizens having nuclear arms and that sort of thing? But even with the CDC, one could... I tend to lean that's maybe better for the government because it's more standardized over a broader range. So I'm not the type of conservative that says you don't need the government for anything.
And I think that's fair to say, like, some problems you lean one way and some problems you lean another way. I think that's realistic. Like, I think that makes sense to me. I guess I maybe tend to lean that way on more things than you do.
Yeah, and that's fine. We're just different.
Yeah.
Anyway, I got another caller.
But yeah. Thanks for talking.
Yep.
That was an interesting conversation.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Thanks.
Yep.
Now, will this be a good conversation? Can you hear me? How do you say your name?
Hello.
Hello. You're Hulu?
How are you? Yes.
Is that how you pronounce your name? Hulu?
Cthulhu.
Cthulhu.
Yes.
Oh. Where are you calling from?
I don't want to say.
Okay. You're not calling from one of those shithole countries, are you?
Yeah, probably.
Sorry, that was a Trump joke. What do you want to talk about?
Okay, so what's the difference between me reading a book about a man walking on water and you reading a scientific research paper about an electron being in two places at once.
Electron beam going two places at once. Oh, because I can run that experiment in my own home.
But you actually didn't.
I didn't. Actually,
Yes, you didn't.
The split beam one. I have actually run that experiment with my, seriously when I was in university with my own eyes. I got to see it.
Okay, so what's the difference
Hang
between
on.
someone who...
Hang on.
Okay.
I've never seen someone walk on water though.
Yes, but it's okay. So what's the difference between someone who didn't run the experiment, reading both of those things? Like how should he know which one to believe? How is one different than the other? If he doesn't run the experiment himself.
Okay, if he doesn't run the experiment himself, and he never will.
Yeah, if he doesn't have access to it, he doesn't have the necessary knowledge.
Yeah, great question. I know exactly where you're going with this, and I appreciate the question. I would say then you have to go with what I'll refrain from using big words. What is most normal in one's everyday life? So, for example, in everyday life, even though this person hasn't run the experiment, they know what a laser beam is. They know what slits are. They know what light is. They know what wavelengths are, that sort of thing. But in their everyday life, have they seen a person walk on water?
Yes, but they also never saw something being at two places at once, right?
True. But the split beam is not something at two places at once. It's basically light behaving as both a particle and a wave, but it's not being in two places at once. Are you a theist? Are you a Christian?
No. I have an epistemological inquiry, right?
Okay.
Because I think if you're an atheist and you believe what scientists say, and even sometimes if they say something that is very counterintuitive, and you come to believe it, I don't know how that could be different.
Yeah. I think you bring up a good point. Sometimes it's a matter of trust.
So how should you? What criteria should you have for trusting a source?
A source, that's tougher. If you have multiple sources, it's easier. But if it's just one source, then you would have to go with, let's say, past predictions they've made and have they come true.
Just one source?
If that's all you have, is just one source. If you have multiple sources, then you look at sources that hate each other, detest each other. If a Republican, a far right-wing MAGA person, and a progressive left-wing tree-hugging person both agree on, let's say, a fact of politics, then you can go, oh, maybe that is a fact.
I mean, yeah, but I feel like it might be the same problem, considering it's the same input point into your knowledge, right? Like,
comes down to trust. I don't know if I can say it any better than that.
But do you find there is a fundamental do you find there is a fundamental difference? Sorry. Do you find there is a fundamental difference between someone reading multiple sources saying a man walked on water, or, of course, I know you'd say that there isn't multiple sources, but if there were, would that be as reasonable as believing multiple scientists who say that, who claim that something very counterintuitive actually takes place in everyday, events?
Depends what that counterintuitive thing is. Like it's counterintuitive that a man walked on water, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So if it's as equally as counterintuitive as that, then and if you have multiple sources for both, then you have to look at the quality of those sources. But even if that's all the same, then it's a push.
So it's okay. Okay, I have another question.
Okay.
So do you believe most of what you see on the internet is real or fake?
It's real in the sense that I'm seeing it, but whether it actually is true, I think that's what you meant, right? True or false?
No, I mean like when you open X and you find some people shouting about this, some people shouting about that. Do you find that to be real?
What real? That they're shouting, or what they're shouting about?
No, like they're shouting. Is it authentic? Do you believe that most of the shouting you find on the internet?
Well,
is
if it's
authentic?
in text, it's hard to know if they're shouting. I guess if they go all caps, no, I don't assume that's authentic.
So it's mostly on the internet. You believe it's mostly like not non-authentic interactions.
Yeah, probably that's true. Mostly, some are, of course.
And do you find that most of that shouting is being influenced by some parties, or is it just random?
Influenced by some parties, or is it just random? I'll go with the first choice, if that's the only two I get to pick from.
So, did you ever, how many times in your life did you think about Canada winning a trade war against America?
How many times in my life have I heard of Canada winning what?
Have you thought about would Canada win a trade war against America?
Win a third war? Sorry, I can't.
A trade war against America.
I still don't understand what you're saying.
Like, have you ever sat down and thought, what would Canada have to do to win a trade war against America before, or is this your first time?
It's your accent. I don't understand you. Use different words.
So the title of this stream.
The title of this stream.
Yes, it's about Canada winning a trade war against America.
Oh, a trade war. That's what you said.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And so your question is, do I think what?
Have you ever thought about that before?
Have I ever thought about that before? Yes.
Like how many times? In what context?
In what context?
Yes. Like obviously this, the title of this stream is...
I knew about trade deficits with Canada like 10 years ago.
No, I mean like in the title of this stream is obviously in the context of what Donald Trump is saying, right?
Yeah.
But before, when you thought about it, what was it in the context of?
Economics.
Okay, so do you find it weird that, like, do you think you're being part of that inauthentic interactions on the internet when you make a stream about something that you wouldn't have made a stream about a year ago, or 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, or 4 years ago?
No.
Why?
Because I know myself.
But why do you believe you're not being manipulated?
Because there's nobody manipulating me.
Donald Trump isn't?
Donald Trump? No.
So when he tweets and makes headline news about certain topics, he's not manipulating people to talk about something, or trying to
maybe some other
propagate an
people, but
idea.
not me.
Why not?
Maybe it's my personality type, the way I was raised.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask you questions?
Go ahead.
Okay, I don't know what country you live in, but can you tell me if you live in the United States or not?
No, Middle East.
You're in the Middle East. Do you like Trump or dislike him?
I like that he seems to be dismantling the American empire, like, castigating Zelensky on global TV is very bad for America, I think.
What he did to Zelensky, you think was very bad for America?
For the system, for the empire. It doesn't make any sense to hang someone out to dry. Even if you disagree with Joe Biden, he was the former president of the United States. If you do something like that, it diminishes trust in America as an ally. I think so.
With Ukraine.
Yes, what he did with Ukraine. Even if people don't like it, I think you would have to you wouldn't have to go as far as Joe Biden did, but at least don't make that much of a fool out of him, you know?
Oh, you think Trump
That
made a
was
fool of
too
Zelensky?
far. Yeah, it was too far.
It was
It
too
was
far.
like a school principal, you know?
I thought it was very entertaining.
It was, yeah, but like if like the president of any country in the Middle East watches that, how much trust do you think he would have in America as an ally?
Okay.
Especially if America remains a democracy and Trump leaves in the next 4 years.
Okay. There's so many ways I could go with this, but do you think that America needs Ukraine as an ally?
No, I think America, when it wants to do something in the Middle East, it doesn't just send 2 million soldiers. It tries to build partnerships, allies. It tries to bring people together. Now people don't have trust in America. So when America wants to do something, anywhere, it would be more difficult than before.
You don't think the Middle East trusts Trump as an ally? How about Israel?
No.
How about Saudi Arabia?
I mean, yeah, but those two have
Oh, so there are some allies.
something to hold over him. Yeah, but they have they have something to give, right? They have something that to bargain with.
Exactly, they have power.
But now people who don't have power don't, who have no power.
Okay, I know this is tough to hear, and I know this is it makes people sad to hear it, but it's the truth. If you don't have power and leverage, then it really doesn't matter if you gain their trust.
No, 100%. But if for example, if I'm a country and I have the choice between building a military base on my country for Russia or America, right?
Yeah.
Or if I'm going into war and I have a choice between Russia as an ally or America, I don't know if in the next 4 years America supports me a lot, and then another president says we shouldn't do this, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm hung out to the Russia.
That's just reality of a democracy. Like, there's many things one government can promise, and the next government say that promise was terrible, and then they reject it. That's just the reality
100%,
of it. Yeah.
But do you want America to remain an empire? Do you want it to be do you want it to, in the next 10 years, do you want it to have as much hegemonic power as it did in the past 10 years?
Yeah, sure.
For the world.
Yeah, I want it to be better.
But how do you do that when you humiliate an ally that for the past 4 years you've been telling the world that is a very
you got it in your mind that somehow Ukraine matters, but it doesn't.
I know it doesn't, but the problem is Joe Biden said it did, and American politicians.
You're under the impression Joe Biden matters, but he doesn't.
Yeah, but Joe Biden wasn't speaking just for himself. Do you believe he spoke also for the deep state?
I'm not even so sure he even spoke for himself.
Exactly. Who was he speaking for?
No, I'm saying I'm not even so sure he even could speak. I mean, he could read off a teleprompter once in a while.
Of course. Who wrote the stuff on the teleprompter?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know.
And those people who were in control, who were writing the stuff on the teleprompter, what they were saying was, Ukraine is very important, very, very important. We will never leave it. We will always support it. And by the way, Republicans and Democrats, everyone, right? It wasn't just Democrats. It wasn't just Joe Biden, right? And then a complete 180, right?
Yep. Well, not a complete 180. It's basically, I think a deal has already been struck. Hasn't the deal already been struck? And has Zelensky signed the deal yet? I'm not even sure.
I don't know. I don't think it seems he came to the White House not wanting a deal, right?
So the basic thing is that there was a deal with Russia from after World War II not to expand eastward with NATO. Yes. And it really looked like that was going to be broken. And so Russia said, no, you're not going to do this. And so I think Trump struck a deal where he's saying, okay, Ukraine, you need to pay us for all the money we spent on you. And in return, we'll give you no guarantees, but a good probability that Russia will have Donbass and Crimea, and Ukraine, you can have the rest.
Yeah, I know. By the way, I'm not on like Joe Biden's or Ukraine side at all. I know, but I mean like just looking at the empire and how would people trust it, Just that.
Well, a lot of times trust is not even needed when it comes to foreign politics. It boils down to power, not trust.
Yeah, but it's not like America is the only power in the world, right?
True. But the only power that can come close to the United States is China and Russia.
Yeah, and they are carp. They are very weak, I know.
So, like, even if you were to think really in bad terms about Trump really didn't even need Zelensky to sign that deal. If the United States wanted to, they could just gone in and take all the minerals out of Ukraine that they wanted. They didn't have to ask for Ukraine's permission.
Oh, of course, I know. I mean, like, if someone in the future wanted to be, or if someone wanted to be, wanted to have, what's when, what was Ukraine, what's its war called? A proxy war, if someone wanted to fight on behalf of America somewhere, right? Now people wouldn't be as enthused about fighting on behalf of America, right?
Right.
So does that weaken or strengthen the empire, or it's irrelevant? It doesn't affect the strength of America.
One could say in the short term it can weaken it, in the long term it can strengthen it. Like we really don't know until history unfolds.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Well, I'm going to end it there then, with you saying, I guess that's right. Thanks for calling in.
Okay, thank you.
Bye. Line's open. I still want a Canadian to call in. Maybe I need to bait. Canada is powerless and weak. Canada's nothing without the United States. Canada has no identity. Canada was originated from people too weak to fight against the British, and so they fled up north. Its whole history is full of weak people. There, that's good baiting. You got to admit, that's great baiting. Actually, I'm tempted to try to watch that Jubilee with Sam Cedar. Someone said that was good. But every time I try, my live stream's gone dead. But I really want to watch that live. Hi, Magnus.
Hey, Doug. How you doing?
Good. I remember you.
Delay.
I remember you, but I don't remember where you're from.
From Denmark.
Oh, Denmark. Yeah.
Yes.
Denmark. Are you the guys who own Greenland, or is that?
Yeah, we are.
Well, you used to own Greenland.
We still do.
Well, for now, I guess.
Yeah, for now. I think we will. Well, to be honest, I'm actually kind of in doubt about that. Like, what is it gonna be like? Who will Trump pull up some cards out of his?
Okay, let's fight, Magnus. Let's you and me fight.
Yeah, let's do
it. Give me a topic you want to fight about.
I think Trump is hurting America with his trade war.
Oh, you're full of BS.
No, I think he does.
Okay, thank you for your opinion.
Yeah, well, the reason why I think Trump is hurting America with his trade war, I think it's actually rational what he's doing in some ways. He wants the tariffs, or we just call it import taxes in my country, but
yep.
He wants those things to be on equal terms.
Yeah.
But the problem is that America has been, using this free market approach. What was Milton Friedman, who was the promoter of this philosophy originally, and America really wanted the whole world to be like a free market place, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Milton Friedman actually said that he thought it was, if China wanted to subsidize its own exports and undermine America's industry, he thought it was fine. They're basically paying us to buy their products.
Are you under
And,
the
I
impression
think
that there was
Milton
free
Friedman
trade
was-
between Canada and the United States before this? Are you under the impression there was free trade between Canada and the United States before Trump came along?
Well, America has always been a little bit more free trade than you did have tariffs on Canadian products as well, so far as I know, right? But just not as much. Is that not right?
Canada has had a ton of tariffs on American goods way
Yeah.
before Trump.
Yeah. And so does Europe. That's why we don't buy American cars in Europe.
Yeah.
It's because we put taxes on your cars, and your cars are too big for our roads. Our roads are like this, and your cars are like this.
So is that bad of Europe to do that?
I think in a way, yeah.
In a way. Why can't you just say it's bad, full stop?
The problem is that it's mostly France. France wants to go, the protectionist road that Trump is now going. And basically, Trump is just doing what France has been doing for decades. And in a way, it's fair, you could say, but it's also counterproductive because it will separate our economies.
It's also kind of what?
Counterproductive.
Counterproductive. Oh. Well, see, the problem that Canada has and European countries has is that the U.S. is the biggest economy in the world.
Yes.
And so we can bully you.
Yeah.
And you got to take it.
Yeah. I just think that.
So what's there to talk about?
Well, so the way I want to put it. Okay, I'm gonna sidestep a little bit. Is that okay?
Sure.
All right. I think if I was China, this is just the best thing in the world. If you can get the West to fight about trade, and by doing that diminish our combined economies, that's good. That is
Good
just
for
the
China.
best. Yeah, China loves that. It's
Yeah, but
perfect.
China's dependent on the United States too, just like we're dependent on them. In a
Sure.
way. Yeah. So they might be, by having the West fight with each other, like Trump is still going to tariff China.
Yeah.
So their economy is going to go down too.
Sure.
So what Trump's doing is basically saying two things. Well, maybe probably three things. He's saying get the trade deficit to a surplus. Like if you look over the last 10 years, I bet you United States has probably given Canada $1 trillion over the last 10 years. Well, no, maybe 20 years. $1 trillion of cumulative trade deficits to Canada. And Trump's basically saying that's going to stop. And then Canada has a ton of tariffs on United States, a lot in the agriculture industry, and Trump said, get rid of those. And then also we're going to manipulate you to do exactly what we want on the border. And if Canada does all those things, gets rid of all the tariffs, does exactly what Trump wants on the border, gets the trade deficit to zero to maybe even a surplus, small surplus to the U.S. side. In other words, transfer wealth out of Canada back into the United States. Then Trump will say, okay, no tariffs on you. We're good. That's all Canada has to do.
Right. So it's a might makes right thing.
Might makes what's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if it works, it works. It's great. But if I think Trump is going to do this with Europe as well at some point, because Europe has been we've been taxing American imports as well. We've also made it difficult for other reasons, like
Yeah, we need.
That's the reason why we don't have American cars on our roads.
Yeah, we need to
It's
tariff.
not just
We need to
it's not
tariff
just the
Europeans.
tariffs. I think there are also some rules that we don't we haven't synchronized the way that you know.
If I were Trump, I would say to Italy, no more Ferraris. I would say to Germany, no more Volkswagens. Zero.
Yeah.
None are coming in until you eliminate all the tariffs against us. And then let's watch Europe cry.
Yeah, but how much will we be hurt by it? Like, say Denmark, we have Novo Nordisk in Denmark, right? We make the Ozempic thing, right? That's gonna be, but the problem is it's being produced in America.
Yeah, if it's being produced here, then there'll be no tariffs then.
Yeah, so we aren't really hurt by it actually, because most of the companies in Europe that have products in America, we actually have our factories in America. So I'm not really sure if it. I'm not sure how much we actually ship over the Atlantic to. I think it's mostly China that does that. Of course, in the Pacific.
Here's my take. Like, you probably came in late. You didn't hear me say this, along with other people. But my take on what's going to happen with Canada is that Trump really doesn't want Canada as a 51st state. He's using that as a talking point to get Canadians riled up against him on purpose. And then he's going to have the current power there, the left-wing power, remain in power there for a little bit longer. He's going to get everything he needs to get done as far as manipulating Canada to do what he wants, like with the border, with the trade deficit, and with them decreasing or getting rid of their tariffs. And if they don't do it, he's going to basically destroy the Canadian economy and have the Canadians get so mad at their own government for not negotiating that the Conservative Party is then going to take over. And then he's going to negotiate with the Conservatives, which are more likely to do what he says. And then he's going to actually end up having two countries shift to the right, and everything will be fine.
But the way I understood it is just that the Conservatives in America, they've been totally behind Canada. Like they had like didn't they have like their polls go down like a lot because
in America?
No, in Canada.
Oh yeah,
didn't
no. This is So basically, what I'm saying is that Trump is going to destroy the Liberal Party in Canada.
Okay.
So he wants them in power so he can destroy them.
The Liberals.
This is my theory. And then he's going to negotiate with. Then they're going to probably have an election and probably, I don't know, a year and a half, something like that. They'll have an election. The Conservatives will win in a landslide because their economy is going to be destroyed, and the Liberal government were powerless to do anything and didn't negotiate with Trump well. And then Trump will negotiate with the Conservative Party, and so he'll get everything he wants. Plus, he'll get a partner in Canada that are also conservative.
Okay,
that's my theory.
Seems risky. Do you know how he's going to take Greenland?
Offer each Greenland citizen $5 million.
Yeah.
They'd take it in a heartbeat.
I'm not so sure.
Really?
I'm not sure they would.
There's only 60,000 people on Greenland, right?
Yeah.
How much is 60,000
I just don't think
times
they would
5
trust
million?
it. Like you can go and say all sorts of things, right?
Is that 300 billion? 60,000
times 5 million.
I think that's 300 billion. Yeah, 300 billion.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah, that's maybe a little bit too much for Greenland. Maybe 1 million per citizen. They'd still take it.
That would also be a lot of money.
And then watch Denmark cry. You can't take it and try to stop us. We just paid for it.
I just don't think the Greenlanders would trust it.
Trust what?
You know, that they would get the money.
Oh, no, you pay them ahead of time.
Oh, they'll just take the money and stay with Denmark.
Well, no, if they do that, then they got the U.S. military rolling in.
You just invade them.
Yeah.
You
can't.
already have a base there. You don't need to roll in.
Is there already a base there?
Yeah. You have. I think you have. Don't you have more than one? You at least have one base in Greenland.
Let me ask Grok.
Pretty sure about it. It is my country, you know.
Well, it's your territory.
Yeah.
Like, is Greenland considered territory like Puerto Rico is in the U.S.?
No. It's part of the. It's like United Kingdom.
We have the Pitukvik space base.
I guess it's like yeah. I guess it's like the Falkland Islands.
Yeah.
You know? More or less like that.
Oh, I think but we don't get the. Is there oil there?
In Greenland?
Yeah.
No, but there's lots of mining opportunities.
Oh, okay,
Gold
that's why
and
Trump wants it.
uranium and all sorts of rare earth metals and that kind of stuff for batteries and all that new, smartphones and everything.
Yeah, then it's worth $1 million a citizen.
I think it's definitely worth it. I'm surprised that Europe hasn't done more to try to keep it in our sphere of influence. I'm also actually kind of disappointed that we haven't put more effort into developing the country. We should have done that.
That's because the Denmark leadership is stupid.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
I freely admit that we should have done more to develop Greenland, but politicians in Denmark are just without vision, and they could definitely use somebody like Elon Musk or some engineers that took initiative and developed the thing.
Yeah, Elon Musk is great. Well, thanks for calling in, Magnus. I enjoy your chess games, and I got a new caller here.
Yeah, okay. All right. See you. Hi, Doc.
Chongo.
Doug.
Yes.
I don't think you're serious. I think you're trolling everybody with this whole Trump stuff.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you for your opinion.
Yeah. So, you think you believe that Trump, that this is all really according to some plan that he drew up, and there's some economic dots that he's connecting and everything like that, or do you think he's just doing what is obvious, just willy-nilly, imposing tariffs? Hey, what about the oil in Canada? I don't know. Maybe that'll be 10%. What about this? I don't know. I haven't thought about it. You think that this is really a strategic plan that will bear fruit, so to speak?
Well, whether it will bear fruit's yet to be seen, but I do think that there's a strategy there. Yeah.
Well, all the economists don't see it. The stock market doesn't see it. The impact on the pricing doesn't see it. So where is this? Where's the fruit going to be? What are we going to see, and when?
A trade surplus, no tariffs from Canada on U.S. goods, and Canadians doing what we say on the border.
Isn't there already? Didn't Trump on his last term create the free trade agreement between them?
Yeah.
So then, what's the problem?
The problem is 4 years went by and there was still a trade deficit. So Trump changed his mind and said that I thought this would be a good agreement, but it isn't.
Okay, so he imposes these tariffs. Let's look at the automobile sector. So he poses the tariffs. All the big three owners come running to him and say, "Hey, this is going to be devastating. We may even have to close factories within weeks and everything." And then he says, "Oh, okay, you know what? It was a bad idea. We'll postpone them for 30 days." So where is this genius where like his own factories that he's trying to stick up for are are pleading with him, not to do this. And the stock market again is reflecting all this. So after talking with him, and he even tells this to the public, after he talked to the owners of the automobile companies, then he realized, the damages that it presents. So again, we'll play hokey pokey with the tariffs, and we'll postpone it again for another 30 days. And
You're talking about the
we'll
future,
see.
right?
What's that? Well, I'm talking about what already happened with the tariffs. With was it this? I can't even keep track of them. Was it I think it was the 25% Canadian tariff.
Yeah, that was across the whole everything.
Right,
Except for oil.
Now, what was the one he postponed to? He postponed. No, because he imposed.
He postponed the 25% initially because Trudeau promised to put 1.2 billion investments in Black Hawk helicopters and secure the border. Right,
but then he actually imposed them again after 30 days on Mexico and Canada, and then again went back and postponed them again another 30 days.
So look what he got accomplished. He got
nothing.
No, he got Canada to invest 1.2 billion plus secure their border.
That was an agreement that was already signed in December.
Are you sure?
I'm very sure. That was an agreement that was already in place months before he imposed the tariffs. So Canada did nothing. I think the only thing that they did was like appoint that czar or whatever. But if you got a computer in front of you, to fact check that. But I'm 95% certain that it was December of last year that was already in place. The 1 point whatever billion dollar plan, and that's what was so silly about it, was that they gave up nothing, and then Mexico just said, okay, yeah, we'll put.
Are you thinking about Mexico?
No, this is Canada. I know it was December.
Yeah, they did announce something in December.
Yes. So all they were doing was just following through with what they already said they were going to do. The only difference was they appointed that whatever.
So they didn't follow through with it, or what?
No, it was already going to be implemented.
Going to be, meaning like it hadn't yet.
Well, the bill was signed in December, so I guess all they did was.
So maybe Trump took off the tariff or delayed it 1 month because they actually started fulfilling their agreement.
Could be. Yeah, I don't know the nitty gritty of it, but again, we're splitting hairs. I mean, if like of all the places to go after, like why are we starting with Mexico and Canada?
Because they're our two biggest trading partners next to China, I guess.
Right. Sure.
Yeah.
So okay, so you just cut off your nose to spite your face. I mean that's our biggest, our enemies or China. Go after them. I mean, you can see he kind of tiptoes around that. And he tiptoes around it a little bit. He didn't do 25% on China.
I think he did.
He did 10, and then he did another 10.
Yeah, but we already had some tariffs on China.
Mm-hmm.
But do you think tariffs are a bad idea?
No, I think tariffs can be good if they're like strategically used. Like, hey, we have, if you break everything down and you say, hey, we have the ability to produce this, we already have the infrastructure in place, we'll oppose a tariff specifically, on this. Like, for instance, what they did, I think in his first term was like washing machines or something like that, like very specific, like items that you have a plan that's all part of an economic plan. Like this willy-nilly tariff one day, no tariff another day. I'll figure that out later. Hit $2 over there. It's silly, like, to be honest, and it's just costing people money. And like, for instance, let's look at Canada. So we get America can't provide all the lumber that all the construction needs. Like, you have to supplement it with Canadian lumber. All the potash that comes to our farmers, it has to be supplemented through Canada. We have all this oil, but we can't refine it.
I think you're right on potash, but I'm not sure if you're right on lumber.
I mean, I work in the construction industry.
I'm not saying like we don't need lumber, but does it have to come from Canada?
Where are you going to? I guess you can ship it. No, you could get it somewhere else, but That's why
Mexico has a lot of forests too.
Well, yeah, if you get but you're just paying the same tariff.
Well, depending
So all you did,
depending if they cave or not.
so all you did, so we supplement all our lumber from Canada right now because that's the next best price than producing it domestically. So now if you impose the tariff on Canada, okay, that makes it more expensive. So now you have to go to the next more expensive bidder. So you just raised the price of lumber right there.
Yeah, okay, I hear everything you're saying, and I'm not saying that a trade war, a tariff war, is not going to hurt the United States. I'm not saying it won't hurt, but it's going to hurt Canada more.
Oh, sure.
Yeah,
I mean, what
that's
is
the point of this trade war.
Well, it's just a dick measuring contest?
Yeah,
is that all we're doing?
It's to, again, three things. It's to get Canada to do what we want on the border. It's to get Canada to have a surplus with us, or at least par. And it's to get Canada to remove all the tariffs that they had on us, but even before all this happened.
But you and I know that the whole border thing's all bullshit with Canada. I mean, it's legit with Mexico, but come on.
No,
with all
it's
that,
not bullshit. I agree.
Really?
It's not as serious as the Southern, but it's still not bullshit.
I just disagree with you there. I mean,
Okay,
we're
fine.
talking, we're talking what 1%, of the country's fentanyl, and we send all their cocaine all comes.
How many
up through
people can that 1% kill?
Oh, the piles.
Yeah, so that 1% matters, right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, I mean, you could say the same thing about, how about all the firearms that go into Mexico from the United States?
Yeah.
If you
Some
say
people think
bullet
it's coming from the Ukraine money.
but it's not, I think it's my big gripe isn't with that. It's with these willy-nilly tariffs that are hurting, that are just going to hurt. It's just going to raise prices. It's not. Is it going to influence, domestic production? Sure, but how fast can you build a $500 million plant? It takes years. It takes years to get the infrastructure there. It takes years to do the developing. It takes years, and then guess what? Now you got to buy all the steel.
He has 4 years to work with.
Well, that's not going to cut it. And all the and by the way, all the things that he's announced too, like this whole Honda has agreed to come over here and all that's all lies too. They're already in Indiana, and the whole thing with Apple, they say that every couple of years, and all they're doing is just building server towers over here. They're not building factories. So all this oh, look what the tariffs have done so far. They've done nothing, and people are starting to come around. Your boy, who is it? The Jewish guy. Ben Shapiro, he's finally starting to, at least he's starting to come out now saying, look, these tariffs are no good. He's still a Trump supporter and everything, but it's all starting to come apart at the seams here.
What are you talking about? Ben Shapiro said these tariffs are what?
He's finally starting to speak out about the tariffs.
Well, I've spoken out against the tariffs too. If you're doing a broadband tariff and not a pinpoint tariff, I agree it can lead to inflation and can lead to bad outcomes. But what I think what Trump is banking on is that, I'm willing to hurt the United States, but it's going to hurt Canada and Mexico a whole lot more. And so it's going to hurt nobody, but benefit the United States the most because they're going to cave so quickly.
Well, no, it's gonna hurt the United States the least, I guess you'd have to say.
Yeah, that's not the way to say.
Okay, well then I get. Honestly, I guess we don't really disagree on anything. I just say, what's the point?
The point is, over the last 4 years, we've let's see, $300 billion US went into Canada.
Right.
And Trump's saying, I want to keep it here.
Okay. So I agree with it. Just have a plan. He's got enough. Come on, Doug. Anybody that's ever been close to Trump says, look, the guy knows real estate, okay, but he literally doesn't understand anything else. He doesn't even understand the construction, okay, of that went on at his casinos. And all his closest friends have all said the same thing. And the guy and he's not a business genius. He got rich on junk bonds and filing bankruptcy. So I don't know. Frankly, I just think it's an embarrassment. So.
Well, you're entitled to your opinion, but unfortunately, your opinion doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't.
No.
But I just
Neither
neither
does
does
mine.
yours. Neither does yours. So
Yeah.
this is why we talk.
But we can make predictions, and my prediction is that that Canada will cave very, very quickly, and if they don't, they're going to be destroyed economically. Yes, the United States will be hurt, but right now the tariffs will probably take off at least 1 or 2 percentage points from their GDP.
Mm.
And they
Well,
can't,
here
they can't
let me
afford
throw
that.
in a curveball. Canada has no debt or very little.
What are you
Debt.
talking about?
Don't they have very little?
No,
debt?
they have less debt per capita than we do, but they have a ton of debt.
Yeah. Oh yeah, but like per capita. I mean, so I mean they can survive a little bit, but I'd probably agree with you that like they
Canada has
eventually
no choice.
they would have. Eventually, they would. I think that they'll fight back, but I agree with you. I mean, I think that eventually
Canada is
Mexico and
powerless.
Canada will have. Yes, eventually will win, but I just say for what, But
For
but we'll
what
see.
is the 300 billion every 4 years? It's the basically, and I don't know if you heard my other theory that I actually think he wants to do this while the Liberals are in power in Canada to destroy them, and then have the Conservative Party sweep in there and take over.
That's actually the only. My two theories are: I think first, I think he has no idea what he's doing. He's not quite. But second, if he does know what he's doing, I think that I would agree with your theory that he's doing all this on purpose.
Yeah, he doesn't want Canada as a 51st state because it would probably end up having the Democrats have more power in the United States. Plus, it would be a pragmatic nightmare to transfer all the welfare programs and the universal health care. It would just be a mess. So practically, it'd be next to impossible. He wants basically our neighbor, our trading partner, to be more like him and be conservative. So he's going to crush the Liberal Party in Canada through these tariffs, and he's going to get at least at par zero trade deficit and a conservative leadership.
Yeah. I mean, he just has it. Look, I don't think he can figure the guy out. I mean, for whatever reason, look, the guy loves.
But I got to push back on this.
Mexico. Sure.
I got to push back on you with this whole idea that Trump doesn't have a plan, doesn't know what he's doing. Would you at least admit that he's doing the things he promised to do? At least some of them.
I'll go some of them. Yes, I'll go that.
He said he would do these executive orders, and he's doing them.
He said starting on day one, he would lower groceries. He said I was elected president because of one word.
Right.
Groceries.
Right, but those are things that are. When I heard him say this, I'm going, yeah, you're not going to do that. I was smart enough to tell the difference. But when he said things like, I'm going to pass an executive order that says that if you let males compete against females in sports, you will get no federal funding.
I totally
and
saw
then
that.
when I heard him say that, I said, I believe him. He's going to do this.
Mm-hmm.
But when he says, I'm going to drop the price of electricity and eggs by half, I'm going, no, there's too many things outside of your control. You can't do that.
Right. So, but do you? Here's the question: did he know that at the time that he's saying that? Did he know he was lying, or did he believe that he could do those things and then got into office and said, "Oh shit, that's a lot harder than I thought it was"?
You're asking me to get into his psychology. My guess is he by nature is a hyperbolizer. So there are a lot of the lies that the left says he makes. You can always find some elements of truth into it. Of course, there's exceptions, and some things are just 100% lies. But other things, I think you can say, well, Trump believes he can lower the price of energy, electricity, and eggs. But does he mean when he says on day one, do you really think he means on day one prices will magically go 50% off? No. What he means that I will set in motion the things that it will take to lower prices by 50%. That's probably what he means. But the thing is, he says it in such a way that he's a little bit like me. He'll give you shock value that causes the people on the left to freak out, and he does that on purpose. And he's doing that with Canada right now too, by saying, I want Canada to be the 51st state. He's doing that on purpose to shock them, to get them angry. And I think his theory is that when people get angry and out of control, they tend not to think straight, and that gives him the upper hand.
I would agree with the whole shock value thing. I mean, you got a lot of catching up to do, on
I'm trying.
on him, but it's so funny. It's everything the guy says. Like it's almost like he lies for no point. Like it's almost like when it doesn't even serve his purpose, he just lies.
Well, you got to be careful with that. Like if you start accusing Trump of lying at every point, then you got to stop saying things like, when Trump says he's going to do something, believe him, because the left will also use rhetoric like that. So do you believe him or do you don't believe him? Right.
So I would say, well, do you believe him on the tariff? Like the tariffs are on, tariffs are off. I mean, can you say that you believe them on that when they're on, they're off, they're on, they're off? It's not.
That's the beauty of tariffs. That I actually like it that you can flip tariffs on and off like a switch. That's the beauty of it. So if, let's say, for some unknown reason, tariffs hurt the United States more than Canada, I don't think that will be the case because of our economy size difference. But let's say that was the case, then basically you just turn them off.
Would you be saying the same thing if you were a manufacturer in the United States? If you were, like, let's say we'll just say you were an automobile manufacturer, would you have the same opinion?
Yeah, I don't know why not. Like if it's hurting my business, then if it was my choice, yeah, I'd turn off the tariff.
Well, so you're just an automobile manufacturer owner. Okay, Trump says the tariffs are on. You start making big time moves. Okay, now you got to find different vendors. You got to get your whole what do you call it?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Like the logistics of it.
Your logistics, exactly. You got to get all that, and then hey, tariffs are off, and you're like, okay, all right, never mind. Now you got to call. You got to. No,
that's a good point.
The relationships, and then they're on again, and then they're off.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, and that's a good point. And I think that this is what Trump was saying, and I think he was telling the truth here, that he admitted that there's going to be short-term uncertainty and instability in the markets, and that's why the stock prices are going down. But probably guys like you and me like it when the stock market goes down, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, not all the time, but they, I mean,
no, if you're sitting on a lot of cash, you want the stock market to go down.
Yeah, but if you have like a retirement portfolio and things like that,
oh, don't give me that.
But
if you have a retirement portfolio and you actually have to sell stock to survive, then I agree with you.
Right.
But if you have a retirement portfolio, odds are you're not going to sell it. You collect your dividends, you have your bonds, you have your stocks, high dividend paying stocks. And as long as the economy doesn't tank, which it might, I'm predicting a recession. I predicted it.
You are predicting a recession, because I was going to see if you wanted to throw money down on that.
Oh no, I predicted it on this show in last August.
I haven't been listening to you lately. Your show's.
In fact, I have proof.
No, I believe you.
I recorded me predicting this, and I kept it here because I know this is what's going to happen. I know a recession is probably going to hit this year, and then people are going to say, "See, Doug, look what good it was to vote for Trump." And I'm going to play this clip of me saying, "I'm voting for Trump, and I'm predicting a recession."
So you're in a you're almost on like a pedestal here, because what you do for a living, the economy really doesn't matter. You don't have any logistics or any materials or anything like that you have to worry about. You're not worried about the stock market. So I think that you're like the 1% of the 1% where all these things don't matter.
No, not in wealth though, but in terms of my independence from government, yeah, I would agree with you.
Right.
Yeah, I don't.
But that's not the average. That's not your everyday man though.
Right, and so I have a bias. I have a huge bias for, like, I want people to be more like me because it's a huge advantage. When you're not dependent on the government for much, maybe interstates and maybe your Social Security that you paid in, would like to see back. Maybe the military is good, but other than that, I don't need the government.
Right. So I don't need the government either. But here's where it does. But I work in construction. So when the price of lumber or steel fluctuates a little bit, I mean, I lose tens of thousands of dollars depending on what job I'm in the middle of, or what jobs I have under contract. So I have to guarantee my pricing and things like that. So I'm not reliant on the government, but I am reliant on the cost of goods, and that directly affects my bottom line.
Just wondering why I have a.
And the other thing is too is that's there's not as much when everything's in a recession.
Well,
I don't get as much work.
Do you have a lot of storage capacity?
No.
Yeah, you need to
it would
fix.
be too costly. It would be too costly because you got to kiln dry everything, and you got to it's keeping things in storage. That's why all of construction got away from that. Everything's now is made to order because of the cost of storage. So you used to be able to go to a window and door store and then buy everything. Nothing's like that anymore. Everything is all just made to order because nobody wants the cost of inventory.
Can you charge your contracts according to the price, like cost plus X, and just so if the labor goes or if your materials go up 10%, it's in the contract that now you're paying 10% more?
God, there's not much point of a contract then. It's almost like just doing it T&M, which they call it, like just time and material, where you just bill as you go.
Well, no, you separate your materials from your labor,
mm-hmm.
and your return on investment, and say this materials portion, because of the uncertainty in the markets, could go up or down 10, 20%.
Yeah.
And you can put in the contract that it's based on this index that they themselves can look at to know that you're not cheating them. And so it's just cost plus.
Yeah, well, it would have to be. That's not in the construction. They use the AIA documents. I know there's nothing in there like that, but I guess I can look into it, seeing if it's legal to just write up my own clause to see if that works. But again, that the whole point of the contract is just so that you're comparing, apples to apples with other contractors and pricing. And people want guaranteed prices. You're not going to hire somebody that gives you, that won't commit to a price. So
that's true.
It's tricky, but I guess in the end, I disagree with you probably less than I thought I did, but I just think that's
because I'm a reasonable guy.
I think you're biased. I think you're playing this like selfish thing a little hard to get, just to get clicks or something. But it's a little heartless. But
if that's true, it's not working.
What's that?
If I'm doing this for clicks, it's not working. I used to when I beat up on Christians, I would get like 200-300 viewers.
I never missed it. I never missed a second of your material when you were beating up on Christians.
Yeah, but I just found that Christians are better people than the people on the left.
Yeah. I think the people on the left and on the right are all nuts.
Just you and I are the only sane ones.
That's it. It'll be me and you. We'll start our own party.
Well, I got a guy waiting here, but it was really
all
nice
right. Good talking to you.
And
you got it. See you.
All the best on your business there.
Thanks, man. See you.
And I wish my volume would not fluctuate. Sorry that it's going loud, quiet, loud, quiet. I'm just fighting it here. Someone can look up a new extension for me on Chrome and let me know in the chat, and I'll quickly install it. That would fix this. The last one was called Speed. No, what was it called? Forget. Cookey.
Hey, PineCreek.
How are you? Where are you calling from?
Quebec.
Quebec. My first Canadian.
Really?
Yeah, everybody who's called so far hasn't been Canadian.
No. I bookmarked the live stream, but I've been away, so I just joined about 20 minutes ago.
Okay.
I don't know what you guys have talked about with regards to the tariffs.
Well, we talked about you going down.
Well, it's not America's fault that Canada shot itself in the foot. So.
Hey, you're a Canadian with a good head.
No, we had Energy East that was cancelled. When the Ukraine war started, the German chancellor came and literally begged for an LNG whatever facility. Trudeau said no. We've created a bad environmental regulations climate here, so no one's building anything new fast enough. I don't know. It's not Trump's fault.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you heard, but my theory is that Trump is trying to help you destroy the Liberal government in Canada so the Conservatives will win. Like right now, the Liberal government's gaining because Trump's threatening, 51st state and all this. But this is all a big plan. This is all a big ruse. So what he's trying to do is to put this Liberal government on a pedestal as the savior to Canada, and then just destroy Canada economically for a time. And then, what's that guy's name? It starts with P from the Conservatives.
Polyev. Pierre Polyev.
He'll come in and he'll be able to negotiate with Trump. And then the Canadian people say, whoa, this conservative leader knows how to get things done. And he knows how to talk to Trump. And then what's going to end up happening is there'll be more fair trade between Canada and the United States, and more fair culture politically. It'll be like two conservative governments.
I think you're too optimistic. Or too positive.
I'm
maybe.
too positive?
Yeah. I think Trump has been very clear. I don't know why people keep saying they don't know what he wants to do. He's been very clear. He wants to make America the strongest and biggest economy that everyone will want to invest in.
Yeah.
He doesn't care who that affects.
Right.
Including Canada. And he's right. You can't go along your life depending on someone else for your sustenance. It doesn't make any sense. I don't think Trump cares really what happens to Canada. But I do think he's going to raid us for talent. So a lot of people are going to go to America to work.
Well, I'm from Canada originally, and so he raided Canada for me. Well, US did.
US did. So
what do your friends think? Do your friends agree with you, or what if you were to go on outside right now and talk to 100 people? How many of them would share your views?
People my age, I wouldn't say anything, so I'm not lynched. But people 50 and up tend to agree with me.
Oh, really?
Including in Quebec.
Okay, so let me get clear what you believe. Do you view Trump as the devil?
For Canada, he is the devil, yes.
Okay. Do you dislike
Personally, I couldn't.
Do you dislike him?
I underestimated his effects, but I don't dislike him, no.
Okay. Do you think he really wants Canada as the 51st state?
Oh, yes.
You do? See, I don't.
But I don't think it... Well, I don't know. I don't think it's feasible.
Right.
But I think he wants an empire. Not for personal reasons. I think he just feels it doesn't make sense to have all this land, above you, close to Russia and China.
Yeah, that's true. However, if Canada were to become the 51st state, that would give more power to the Democrats, because Canada would vote more Democrat than Republican.
Yeah. But, Trump does believe that everyone, if given enough evidence, will like him. So he might believe that that if he brings the taxes low in Canada, increases the revenue.
Yeah, you could be right.
That's what he really believes. So.
But what would you do with the social insurance system in Canada and the healthcare system? How would you incorporate that into the American system? It'd be next to impossible.
Same thing with Greenland. It's impossible to.
Well, Greenland
because we have Canada. Why?
Because there's like only 60,000 people living there.
Yeah, Greenland's easier, but they have great social benefits, better than even Canada. So they're European, basically. So
well, they won't need the social benefits once we get through with them. Like all we do is America pays them each $5 million to vote on a referendum to secede from Denmark. They say, bye-bye, Denmark. What you going to do about it? Because you got no military. You used to have old warships, but not anymore. You used to be Vikings, but not anymore. Is it them?
That I do.
Yeah, so we take over Greenland, but I really don't think it's even possible to take over Canada. At least it would take decades to accomplish.
Canada isn't even a country in the realist sense of the term. It's a conglomeration of 13 countries. It's not a real country. You know, it's our fault.
Are you saying the melting pot doesn't work?
Well, it can work, but it won't work if you don't want it to work. Quebec has never wanted it to work to start with, and I'm Quebecer, so you know.
Did you?
Alberta too has been.
Were you living in Quebec when the referendum took place in the early 90s?
Was I born?
Oh, I don't know how old you are. You look
when was the referendum?
You look 54 to me.
No, I think no, I'm Nigerian. I was in Nigeria. I've been in Canada for about 12 years, but no, I wasn't here.
Oh,
I know all about it.
I got to talk to you about immigration. You're from Nigeria? You're Nigerian born?
Yep.
Okay.
Born and raised.
So we're both immigrants living in foreign lands. What's your take on immigration? Do you think Canada should be as strict on immigration as America?
Canada, well, I'm going to start with this. The provincial governments have been the one pushing immigration, including the so-called conservatives. Let's get that straight. It's not been the federal government. But now, when they didn't build any housing, they've not been paying for the universities and schools for so long. They then turn and blame the easy scapegoats, the immigrants. That's one. But actually, I think Canada should be strict on immigration. And it's not because I hate immigrants. It's not because I want to pull the ladder up from, under me or anything like that. It's just, it's not been done properly. It's been, especially the last 5 years, especially after COVID, it just went crazy. It was crazy. Anybody from anywhere could come.
So do you think Canada should be very selective who they allow in?
Especially for workers, yes.
Okay. So you just let in the best high-skilled workers, or?
It doesn't have to be only high-skilled workers, but it should be very selective. Which it kind of is, it was, but it's no longer as selective as it was. Before, if we're lacking workers in this sector, then they allow more people from that sector. But the last 5 years, anyone could apply regardless of the sector they were going to.
And what do you think about?
So we just have.
What do you think about Trump's what he's done with our border?
America is so big and so desired that it doesn't really matter what he does. In a normal country, I think his headline on illegal immigrants is good. It's good. But what really is illegal immigrant? Because he's just deporting a Palestinian green card holder, and that normally should.
No. Cookey. I know you only have the CBC in Canada, and maybe Global News, and that's the only thing you have. But let me educate you. The real step number one, what Trump has done, and he's done it successfully. This is not even what he will do. It's actually happening right now. He's taking illegal immigration, those people who cross the border, on the southern border at least, at a non-port of entry. He's taken that from a level over here down to a level over here, the 94% drop. Okay, so now we got more people who we know that are coming in. We know who they are, and people who we don't know who they are not coming in. And then he is deporting a lot of he's starting with the most violent types and deporting them. But I think it's going to spread to, if you even go to a hospital and you need help, we'll help you. But then if we find out that you're not If you're an illegal alien, you're deported. So any type of social service that's given to an illegal immigrant will be gone. They'll be deported. So if you're an illegal immigrant in the United States right now, you got to hope you never ever get sick, never ever need help from the government, and live in the shadows for the rest of your life, or you just voluntarily leave.
A lot of people have done.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's good. I mean, America's been talking about fixing the immigration system for the last 30 years before I was born. Maybe now they'll do it because Trump is forcing it to be done.
Yeah. Through
But what are the
tariffs.
Palestinian guys? How are the tariffs reducing immigration
in Canada?
No, in America.
Oh, well, we had this conversation earlier, but basically by enforcing certain agreements and beefing up security at the Canadian border. So in other words, I believe Trump will say something like this. Okay, Canada will go into recession. It's same with the United States this year, maybe early next year. If nothing's done with the tariffs, even if the tariffs go away, I think both countries are heading for recession. But what Trump will do is he'll say, look, do whatever I say on the border. If I say this, you do this. If I say that, you do that. Then when it comes to trade, buy more of our goods to at least equal the trade deficit. So there is no deficit. It's a push. And every single tariff you have on us, get rid of. And if that means your dairy farmers go broke, they go broke. You got to take one for the team, because we've given you $50 to $70 billion per year for the last, I don't know how many years, maybe even a decade. We've given you that's the trade deficit between Canada and the United States right now. It's 50 to 70 billion. Canada exports $50 to $70 billion more. Does the CBC not tell you guys this?
No, you didn't hear me. I said more than.
Oh, more than. Well, no, the deficit is the difference between exports and imports. It's about 50 to 70. Actually, this year we're on pace for 80 or 90.
I understand. What I mean is, I think this stuff has been there since, it should have been there since NAFTA was signed in the 90s, right?
Yeah. There's been a deficit.
So I mean, more than a decade. You said maybe a decade, so I said more than.
Well, I'm being generous. Yeah. I'm being generous to the Canadians, but it's probably way worse. Like, there's been a wealth transfer of probably $1 trillion from the United States to Canada as almost as a gift.
You're not counting energy. When you remove energy,
no, I am counting
the
energy.
oil. No, when you remove oil, it reverses. That's what the CBC is told me.
The CBC is full of shit. Google it for yourself. Go to google.com, not google.ca.
I'll check it out. I'll check it out later.
No, even if you count oil imports, like the amount of oil that the United States buys from Canada, there's still a deficit.
Okay, I didn't know that.
My dad said I talked to my dad the other day, who lives in Manitoba, and he said the exact same thing you said. And I proved it to him. I said, no, that's false. And he goes, is the CBC lying to me?
It's not even just the CBC. Actually, I heard it more from Doug Ford than anybody else. He's kept on saying it, that if you remove the petroleum sent to America, which some of it doesn't even get used in America, it gets exported from America for us. When you remove that, the deficit switches. So Doug Ford has been saying that a lot. But I'll check it myself.
Yeah. Okay, well, hang on tight. It's going to be a bumpy road for the next few months for you guys.
Well, hopefully they build pipelines so I can get a job. I'm a chemical engineer, so maybe I'll get a job there in the pipeline industry.
Oh yeah, there's did they actually complete that pipeline from Alberta, the Keystone pipeline? Did they finish it?
The Keystone? Not the Keystone. I think you mean Trans Mountain. Yes.
Oh, the Trans Mountain?
From Alberta to BC?
No, I'm talking about the one that goes from Alberta to Saskatchewan to Manitoba and then down through North Dakota, I think, or maybe Minnesota.
Biden canceled it.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Biden, that tree
Yeah.
hugger.
He's not even a tree hugger. He's a terrorist. He's
a terrorist.
It's a terrorist.
You're supposed to be Canadian. You're supposed to be on the Democrat side.
Well, America was a terrorist. That's why Canada didn't join them in Iraq. That's terrorism.
Biden's not a terrorist. He's old man with dementia. How often do you get back to Nigeria?
The last few years I've been going quite a bit, actually. About 5 times in the last 3 years.
Is your whole family there?
Only my parents and my wife, my new wife.
Your new wife's in Nigeria?
Yeah.
Whoa, how does that work?
It doesn't. My new wife and my new son is just a few months old.
Oh, you went back to Nigeria to knock her up.
Ostensibly, yeah.
So your hope is to import them into Canada?
You can't trust the women over here, so yeah, I'm going to be importing them.
Oh, yeah.
This year.
What is the difference between?
That's a joke.
No. Well, you say it's a joke, but I actually believe you that you're being somewhat serious, and you know you're being serious. Tell me the difference between a Nigerian woman and the average Quebecois woman.
Quebecer. Oof. First of all, there are many types of Nigerian women, like everywhere else. But I would say the
fat
main
ones, thin ones,
is
tall ones, short ones. Yeah, but I mean, culturally.
Culturally, she will believe in marriage. That's the major difference. She will believe in marriage. She will believe in gender roles almost too much. They really expect the man to take care of everything, financially.
Oh, so it's very,
or to be able to take care.
It's very role based. Like you're the provider, the protector, and she is the caregiver, nurturer of the home, that sort of thing.
Also work. Nigerian women work a lot.
Oh, they do?
Personally, I think they're more hardworking than Nigerian men. Personally.
Really?
Having run businesses there. So she's going to want the man to be able to cover everything, but she's also going to work.
Well,
So then it depends on the woman.
But does the typical Nigerian woman then have time for you, for the husband?
Nigerian couples have normalized cheating. I haven't. My parents didn't because they're super Christian. But Nigerian couples have normalized cheating. So the men are kind of expected to cheat. So that whole, if she's not available for me, it doesn't really apply. Because, he can
there's a lot of American men who are going to be listening to this right now. We're going to start going on the internet and finding Nigerian women to marry.
Every other day, if you go on Instagram, you're seeing some 40 to 60-year-old American man or European marrying a Nigerian woman that's like 20 to 30.
Okay, let me get this straight. You said you haven't cheated on your wife, but if you did, are you saying your wife would be okay with it?
She wouldn't be okay with it, but she wouldn't divorce me because of it. Normally, unless she got really, really mad. But generally, no, she wouldn't divorce. The first time I heard this was from my Nigerian girlfriend here in Canada, but she was also Nigerian, and I was shocked. She said, "If you cheated, I wouldn't I wouldn't break up with you just because you cheated." And so 20 or 21-year-old me was like, "What? That's crazy. You're supposed to break up immediately." But then when I went back to Nigeria, I stayed there for a few years. I realized that that's the norm. That's what people think.
Can I ask? Can I ask if you're a Christian?
I was.
Now you're
I don't comment on the matter for family reasons.
Okay.
I know.
Do you know what I am?
I know you. Yeah.
Okay.
I used to live stream you a lot.
Okay.
When you were more Christian focused.
Yeah. Interesting. What got you out of
Have you-
Christianity? Was it me?
I was already on the way out when I knew I was leaving. I just was looking for justifications to stay.
Is your wife a Christian?
Yeah.
Does she know?
She only says it when she's angry.
Oh, so she knows you're no longer a Christian. I didn't hear what you just said.
Something we talk about.
Okay. Yeah, I'm prying deep here, but interesting. Yeah, because my wife's a Christian and I'm not, so
I know.
yeah.
What are the two kids? The two kids, are they still Christian, or are they now
No, both
in
my
the dark
kids.
side?
Both my kids are atheists. Yeah, but they're good atheists. Like they don't even eat babies or anything.
So,
But but I'm going to let you go, Cookey, because your internet's going out. But I really enjoyed this conversation. It was very interesting, especially the last part. Okay, see ya. Nigerian women expect their husbands to cheat. Wow. Did you hear that, D?
What?
Nigerian women, when they get married, they expect their husbands to cheat, and they will not divorce them if they do.
I missed that.
Yeah, Cookey just told me he's a Quebecer from Canada.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
So an American can marry a Nigerian woman and a good one, and have a good mother, raise kids, and then have like a few side dishes.
And it's normal. It's fine.
It's normal. It's fine. Yeah.
Did he explain why?
No, he didn't.
Okay.
I guess maybe Nigerian women really understand the mind of a man. I don't know.
They get it.
They get it. Yeah. What does the D stand for? Is it Doug?
No, just the first letter of my Dean. My name's Dean, but I just put D.
Okay. Well, thanks for waiting. Where are you calling from?
Northeast United States.
Oh, I know why you're calling then. You're saying, Doug, Trump's going to ruin my life because that Ontario premier is threatened to raise electric prices. Is that why you're calling?
It's not because I don't think they supply electricity here, but I mean, it will affect like New York, Michigan, and one other state. Maine?
Minnesota? I don't know.
I don't know. But I've been watching you for a while. I've watched probably hundreds of hours of your content.
Ooh.
Yeah. Like you've got since like 2020, like lockdowns and stuff, 2021. I don't know when. Yeah, when you're more Christian based, a religion based. But I still keep up.
Yeah, I switched probably in 2022-ish. Maybe early 2023. I stopped talking about religion.
Yeah.
Or very rarely.
Yeah, but I'm a big fan. And I still, and I'm a center left.
Nobody's perfect.
Okay. My parents are immigrants, Lebanese. I was born and raised here. But man, I just and I have been keeping up with your stuff somewhat. And you're right. You like Trump. You're a fan of what he's been doing the past 6-7 weeks.
Yep.
Right. Okay.
He's actually exceeded my expectations.
And if I had to guess your biggest reasons for why you like him, right? That trade war. That's
No, that's probably lower on the list. For me, immigration's number one. He's doing what I was a little scared that he was all talk and maybe wouldn't do it, but I thought, well, the statistics show that he's been better at this, and he's even, he's immigration, thumbs up. The whole CRT stuff, critical theory stuff, men and women's spaces stuff, thumbs up. It's, the whole Dodge thing with clean up waste, thumbs up. I just dislike with a passion these activist judges who are standing in the way, but that will all be sorted out.
Okay, that's what I was. Yeah, I was gonna say the three. Yeah, I was gonna say the trade war, the culture war stuff, like the DEI and stuff,
Oh, in
and
Ukraine too. I like the way he's handling Ukraine.
surrendering Ukraine to Russia. I like that. Yeah.
Yep. Because you know why? I'll like. I'm being very serious and sincere when I say this.
Mhm.
I do not want to go into a full-fledged war with Russia. I don't think anybody does.
No.
And I think if U.S. was to get serious about defending Ukraine, it would end up being a full-fledged war against Russia. And that's what Ukraine wants. That's what Zelensky wants. He wants Russia dead. And he wants the United States to take care of it. And most Americans, me included, don't want that. We don't want a full-fledged war with Russia. And this is where the United States is different than Europe. We don't even want this prolonged type war of just kind of like containment, where you spend a few $100 billion every year and allow Ukrainians to die and Russians to die who don't even want to be there. They've been enlisted against their will and that sort of thing. Why not negotiate a deal where you carve out a section of Ukraine and just give it to Putin? And the argument against that is, well, if you give him that, if you give him an inch, he'll take a mile. He's going to take Poland next. And where's it all going to stop, Doug? And for me, I'll put my line in the sand at Germany. Okay, if he reaches Germany again, then we'll step in.
Yeah, I don't. I think. Hey, I think what we were doing was fine. We were giving them we weren't shipping them pallets of cash. We were giving them old stuff that we made during the Cold War.
Yeah. You know what? I kind of hated that argument at first, but I'm warming up to that argument. That it really hasn't cost America that much, and even maybe it's a benefit for certain military reasons. Maybe it sends a good signal to China and Taiwan. All these arguments, they have merit. I don't disagree with that. But you can't disagree with this. You can't disagree with the thousands and thousands of young men dying. And if there's a way to stop that by carving out a piece of Ukraine and just giving it to Putin, then at least maybe in the next few years, much fewer men will die. And to me, that's a win. And I don't care about Ukraine that much, and I know that hurts a lot of people's feelings. But for me, to carve out a section like the Crimea and Donbass to give it to Putin, who cares?
I agree. I don't think it's not about Ukraine. I don't really care about Ukraine. Yeah, it's just about Russia. I think you're right. I mean, yeah, if we can make a deal right now, yeah, I mean, less people are gonna die. But that's the short term, right? Long term, you'll have, I don't know, you'll have more instability in the world, I think, right? I think the U.S., this world order we've built up for the past 80 years has brought a lot of peace to the world. You know what I mean? I think, yeah, short term, yeah, Russia take this peace, but man, you got China looking at Taiwan. I don't know, North Korea.
I think the China-Taiwan one's a tougher one than Ukraine and Russia. But even then, like, do we want to go into a full-fledged war with China over Taiwan? Like, I am willing to go into my closet and pull out my old desktop computers if we run low on chips. Like, this is how much I don't like war. Like,
that's kind of, I don't think you really, I don't know if you really mean that, but like Taiwan supplies, like,
I know.
Most chips. I mean, that's pretty important for.
We know what we should do. I'm not. People think I'm against immigration, but I'm pro. I'm an immigrant. I'm pro immigration, especially the really talented ones, the high skilled ones. Why don't we just get a big aircraft carrier, find the best chip makers in Taiwan, and bring them to the U.S. and build plants here in the U.S. And then if China does take Taiwan, we go, who cares?
I think that's what we're doing.
Yeah, I think that's the goal.
That's the goal, right? Biden with the CHIPS Act. I think a lot of it's like, yeah, let's bring let's bring that chip stuff here, right? But that takes decades and a lot of effort, which we're doing.
No, it wouldn't take decades. 2 years.
I think to build a plant to get.
Well, maybe to build a plant. I'm saying to use current plants here, but to build a plant from scratch, maybe 4 or 5. But the thing is, we've got to do it eventually, so might as well get started now, and that way we're not reliant on China influences.
Yeah, I think we are doing that. I think at the same time, we can keep, if Ukraine wants to keep fighting, we can just keep sending them stuff, have them keep buying U.S. made.
See, that I
keep
don't agree with.
Well, why not? Let's keep Russia, let's keep them.
Because that will prolong the killing.
Sure.
What do you mean, sure? You're not pro-killing, are you?
I'm not, but if Ukraine wants to fight, I mean.
But they don't. I don't know for sure. I don't know this for sure. But my guess is that the fighters, Ukrainian fighters, want peace.
I think they want. Yeah. So the difference between peace and like justice and like peace. Yeah, we can get peace now. Like if they say, "Hey, we're giving up." I don't know if Ukrainians just want to give up. You know.
But we can disagree on this. Like I am against the U.S. giving any more aid unless they pay us back. And I think that's what's going to happen. But if that doesn't happen, then let Europe take care of it. They're the ones that's closest to it.
Yeah, Europe's dropped the ball for sure. I agree with that, Dave.
And I think this will be like Trump is in a way done tremendous good for the world with this Ukraine issue. He's forcing Europe to wake up and realize they can't depend on the United States. And that's a good thing. I'm for independence. And so a lot of people disagree with me on this one. They want America to always be the superpower and have everybody dependent on us. But with great dependence comes great responsibility. I'd rather stay a superpower and then have other countries be stronger as well. So Europe needs to get stronger. And they're going to find out very quickly it's going to be tough to do and still have universal health care and all these social benefits. They're going to realize, oh, you know what? We should actually maybe be a little grateful to the United States that we didn't have to spend so much of our GDP budget on the military and instead could do it into healthcare. You go, oh, now we got to actually take some money. Now, but then they're going to go into debt. And then now they're going to have economic problems.
Right, which is bad for us, bad for everybody. I mean, I don't understand why. That's fine. Just be dependent on us. You guys, I don't know, innovate. I mean,
I hate dependency though.
What? I mean, wait, dependency on us.
I know. But even like my own children, I don't want them to be dependent on me for the rest of their life. I want them to grow wings and fly. I want UK, France, Germany, grow your own wings and fly.
No, be dependent on us. We're the superpower. We are the world superpower. It's okay. Be dependent on us.
Okay, but then U.S. Look at the history of America, and I love America. I think the United States is the best country in the world, but they have screwed up so many countries in the world by going in and interfering, and I want that to stop. This is why I lean isolationist, because it actually can prevent some of the mistakes that America has made from happening again. If countries want to fight a war, let them fight their own war.
I disagree. We should. I love America being the world police. I think we have done a lot of good things in the world.
We have. We've done a lot of great things, but we've also screwed up a lot of countries too.
Sure. Well, there's been some mistakes, but ultimately, I think what we've done in the world is good, and I think we should keep intervening. I'm a war hawk. I think we have this liberal world order that we've set up, and I think it's been great for the world, and we should keep it that way. If we pull out, we're gonna have Putin, Xi Jinping, we'll have the Ayatollah of Iran. They're all like, I don't want these people the ones calling the shots in their areas. I want us calling the shots everywhere. I think what we stand for is better than what these other countries stand for.
Right. I don't disagree with what you just said there, but what I do disagree with you is to encourage other countries to get stronger so they can defend themselves and not always depend on daddy to bail them out. And then, and as soon as you do that, then there's such incentive for America to say, hey, you owe us. And then you got these weird political dynamics of being able to manipulate, like the way, if Canada was a stronger country economically, then they would have more leverage against the United States, but they're not. And so we can do whatever we want with Canada. Now, will it hurt us? Yes, but we can hurt them 10 times harder.
True. I do agree. I think other countries getting stronger is good. But I think the way we're going about it is terrible. Quickly, like I know the tariff thing. You've probably exhausted that a lot. Just you mentioned something about the 300 billion going to Canada. I heard that in the previous
Over 4 years.
Yeah. What is that about? What is that?
That's the trade deficit between Canada and the United States. Right now, it's between 50 and 70 billion a year. So Canada sells more to the U.S. than they buy from us. So that's a trade deficit to Canada, and a trade surplus to a trade deficit to the United States, and a trade surplus to Canada.
And that's bad.
That's bad for United States and good for Canada, because U.S. dollars then flow out of our country and into theirs.
And that's bad.
So that lowers GDP. If you look at how GDP is actually calculated, it's consumer spending, business spending, government spending, plus the difference between trade, imports and exports. And if you are importing more than you're exporting, you actually decrease economic growth in your country if you're importing more than exporting.
If you're importing...
It's basic economics.
Is it? Okay. I just don't... it seems like a trade deficit... I don't know if a trade deficit is always bad. That's the thing. It doesn't...
It depends what you get for it, too. Like...
It's like I have a trade deficit with my dentist because I give him a lot of money, and I...
No, you don't. See, I'm glad you brought up that example, because it's very simple.
Yeah.
You have pain in your mouth. You go to the dentist. You give the dentist money, and he gives you no pain.
Right.
There's no deficit and no surplus. It's an even trade.
He's understood. So with Canada, we're giving them...
We're buying more from them than they're buying from us.
Why would we be buying stuff? Is it because maybe they're making things cheaper and more efficiently?
Definitely that could be one. So the goal of tariffs is to say, okay, you're doing a better job at making this, so that's why we're buying it from you. Right. But there's a cost to that too. So Mexico is probably the easier example, because they have cheaper labor. And so that costs America jobs if Mexico starts building things instead of us.
Okay, so then so the conversation is now about why do we want these? Why do we want these jobs here? Why not keep them in Mexico? Why do we have to make whatever these door handles or fidget spinners here?
Well, because the unemployment rate for people 25 and under is still at around 10%. Did you know that?
I did not know that. I've been hearing
9 or 10%. Like right now, there's a problem with young people in the United States. They're spending too much time on social media instead of, or liberal colleges instead of actually working. And if we could actually have some of these maybe even lower skilled jobs being taken by our young people, maybe there'll be less depression in the United States. Maybe there'll be less mental health problems. Maybe they'll learn how to actually earn money and save instead of relying on the government or daddy.
So the unemployment rate for people 25 and under is 10% because they're spending too much. They're spending too long in liberal colleges.
No, I'm being a little facetious, but I do think that for whatever the reason is, there's still 10% unemployment. Which means there's a lot of room for new jobs to come in, especially low-skilled jobs for young people.
God, yeah, that's crazy to me. I feel like guess where I am. I just feel like there's so many jobs and not enough people. And I don't think.
Then why is the unemployment rate 10% for young people?
I don't know why it's 10% for young people.
Because they don't want to work. They haven't learned the value of work. They're so picky. I don't want to work at McDonald's. I don't want to work on the field. I don't.
How can they afford not to work? How do people just not afford?
They live off their parents.
Oh, okay.
Or the government, or food stamps.
Okay, I mean, can you just live off the? I don't know if you can just live purely off the government. Well,
Some people do.
like possibly.
Possibly, it happens a lot.
Okay.
Government housing, government food, government education, government healthcare.
Okay.
There's, I would say, people who are completely on the government dime. I'm just going to guess here, is at least 5-10% of our population.
Okay, I don't know the answer to that, but we went from trade war with Canada. All these tariffs are because
By the way, I got someone waiting, so we'll go 5 more minutes, and then I'll let my friend on.
quickly. Tariffs on Canada and making an enemy in the trade war is because 25 and under have a 10% unemployment.
No. The conversation has shifted. It's gone way beyond that.
Yes, but we've gone that's the it was a path we've gone down, right?
Yeah. And don't ask me to rehash all those steps in between.
We don't have to. Quickly, immigration. I love immigration. I don't necessarily like illegal immigration, but if you're an illegal immigrant, I think it's fine if you're here. No, hold on. Sorry. Like if you've proven that you're working like for a couple years, you're here, you haven't committed any violent crimes, I think you're fine. I don't think you should be deported. I want more people in this country. Let's make it easy to get people in this country, but let's check them for diseases and their criminal history. Do you disagree?
Oh, definitely, I agree with you. We definitely don't want criminals and diseased people. But do you want high skilled or low skilled? Do you have a preference?
No preference. I think where I am, it's all immigrants that are shoveling the sidewalks of snow and taking out the trash.
Here's the problem, though. At least in the short term, the problem is, let's say you bring in a low skilled immigrant who makes in the United States $35,000 a year, and let's say he's a good Christian, Muslim, whatever immigrant who is married and has 5 kids. In the short term, in the first generation, there's no question the U.S. government and the state governments will subsidize that guy to the hilt. Who's going to pay for the education of those 5 kids? Him? No. Who's going to pay for the health care for those 5 kids? Him? No. Now, if you bring in a high-skilled guy who works at Google, who's making $300,000 a year and has 5 kids, yeah, I'm sure he'll be living maybe in Silicon Valley and it's very expensive, but he'll at least be able to afford his own kids.
Fair. And I don't know what the data is. I think there is data to say that just immigration in general, I mean, yeah, you'll have some of these people with low-skilled people with families who need government help to support the family, but there's going to be enough immigration that you'll have the low-skilled people that are just single coming here to work. That I think the economic output outweighs the government help that is needed for some families that come here. I think there's
the theory is that in generations 2, 3, and 4, you'll get a payback on that investment. But if you believe that poverty is cyclical and repeats itself amongst poor families, then then they get married, have a low-skilled job, the second generation immigrant, and now you're subsidizing their 5 kids. And basically you're creating a population that's dependent on the government. Icy Pirate said 12.6% of people are on food stamps in the United States and 2.7% are on subsidized housing. So I said 5 to 10, so I was in the ballpark.
That's okay. All right.
So my theory is that the United States is the Boston Celtics of the 80s. You're probably too young to remember that. But the Boston Celtics in the 80s were a dynasty. They were the best basketball team. They would compete against LA Lakers. But United States, out of all the countries in the world, we are the dynasty. We are the Boston Celtics currently. And so when we're looking for players to play on our team, we don't settle for just guys who are, low skilled and barely scrape by. No, we want the best, the brightest, the most get up and go, the most healthy, strong immigrants of the world to join our team.
We also need the low skill guys. Like we need people.
We don't. This is what I was saying about the 10%. Our kids, the American kids, can do those jobs. 10% unemployment.
I don't think why are I don't think they're not though.
Okay, they're not. Why?
okay, that's a good question. I don't know.
Let's say the reason is because it doesn't pay enough. Okay, that could be a valid reason. Dad, I don't want to take that job picking grapes in Florida or wherever. Why not, son? And they pay like $12 an hour. I want to make a podcast where I can get $100 or $1,000 per sponsor. Well, son, it's really hard to have a successful podcast. No, I can do it, Dad. No, you can't, son. You're not that talented. Why don't you pick grapes? And well, it's demeaning. I don't want my friends to know I'm picking. Okay, but then what happens if no American wants to take that job? Guess what happens to the price of labor for that job? It goes up. Basic law of supply and demand. So this is the natural way to increase wages in the United States without having like minimum wage and that sort of thing. You let the market forces say, okay, if people don't want this job, you raise the price for that job until they do want it.
I'm still convinced that it's not about people not wanting it. It's about people. There's no people to fill it. I understand the whole 10%. I understand, but I just don't. The fact that then it's a parenting failure. If they're like, hey, yeah, kid, just
you're right. It is a parenting failure.
That's not. I don't know if that's the majority of the cases.
Like
okay.
my son, like my own son, he wanted money from me to get a musical arts degree, a theater arts, musical theater. There we go, musical theater degree.
Cool.
In my head, just between you and me, don't tell my son this, but I think that's a useless degree to get. I mean, there's like it's like trying to become, in order to make real money at it, it's like trying to become an NFL football player or something like that, right? So I'm not going to spend my money for that type of degree. And so I said, okay, son, why don't you take a gap year and work? So he did, and earn your own money. He got scholarships, but it paid for like 60%. He needed 40%. So he started working. Now he saved $35,000 of his own money in 6 months. I said, as long as you're living at home, you can stay here, eat for free, stay at home for free. You can save 100% of your money if you want to. And he saved like 98% of it. Then I said, hey, look how much money you've saved. Well done, son. Now you have enough money to pay your own tuition to go to school. Guess what he told me?
What?
He said, I don't know if I want to spend my own money to go to university. It's easy for kids to spend their parents' money or government money to get a degree, and often a useless degree, than actually have them work hard, save, be disciplined, and then take all that hard work and discipline and then spend it on themselves for a degree, because they know it's probably not going to pay off.
Yeah. You're a good parent. I see what you're saying. But man, how lucky are we to live in a country where you can have 10% unemployment, and these kids can live off their parents? We're rich. I feel like that's a good sign. Like, we've got so much wealth that people under 25.
Yeah, we live in the best country in the world.
And why? But like, we spent almost a century building it this way. You know what I mean? And it really feels like the past 6 weeks, Trump is just trying to. He's like, you know what? We've been doing great. You know what? Let's just mess it all up. I don't know. You don't feel that way?
No, not at all. I do not feel that Trump is messing it all up. Again, like with the stock market going down, people like cry and boo-hoo about that. To me, I find that great. To me, this is an opportunity. And what he's doing with the tariff thing, he's trying to level the playing field with other countries and stop the wealth distribution from America to the rest of the world. No, it's time for the rest of the world to pay us back. It's like he's putting America first. What he's done with immigration, what he's done with the critical theory, protecting women, what he's done with getting rid of waste and fraud with Elon. I mean, I love it.
Elon. Okay. I mean, just wow. How do you? It really feels like he's undermining everything the U.S. is, like, the strongest military alliance, NATO. I mean, Canada, Mexico being great friends. These are all. God, it just feels like.
Were you the guy who said that we want to have America be first and powerful?
Correct. I do believe that. I think I said that.
So why don't we just destroy NATO?
Because this is a military alliance where we are on top. We are the power, and everybody's dependent on us.
I know, but they would even be even more reliant on us if NATO was gone.
No, they're going to try to circumvent the U.S. They're going to be like, these guys are not a reliable ally. We need to work. We need to work within ourselves and
Right.
guard the
They'd
U.S.
be more divided unless
More divided. Europe seems now way more, like they're having meetings without
NATO
the U.S.
is a coalition of countries.
Correct.
I'm saying, and if you want more dependence on the United States, what better way to do it than break up NATO? Then every individual country is going to now, Papa, help us.
Europe seems like they've gotten more closer together. Like their leaders are having more meetings. There's a whole like rearm Europe. It may, if it divides them, then yeah, they'd each be weaker and more dependent on the U.S.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Breaking up NATO is a way to divide them.
I don't know if that's actually the case. It just seems like
I'm just using your own beliefs and values against you here.
Yeah, no, I don't think you are. You're saying you don't know if you think
you were just spouting that Trump's bad because he's breaking all these alliances. But you also said earlier that you want United States to be the king and the superior, and all these countries dependent on us. What better way to do that than to break up all these alliances in other countries?
I don't know. I just don't know if breaking up the alliance is the way to do it. I know you. I understand you believe that, but it could be, yeah. They're just going to form. Europe is going to form its own. They're going to be closer together.
I'm actually not that against NATO. I'm okay if it exists and okay if it doesn't. But what I do believe is that the United States has been paying way more than its fair share of.
But it's working. I don't. But it's working.
It's working.
Us paying whatever. If we're paying more than our fair share, I don't know what that means necessarily. But if that's what got us here, then what got us to the best economy, the greatest country on earth, then let's keep doing it. Why not keep doing it? I don't understand.
Well, one problem the United States has had, and then I'm going to wrap this up because my friend wants one. One huge problem the United States, even though it's the best country in the world, is our debt's out of control. The reason why the Biden administration actually had a good economy, and it was fairly good for most of the years he was in, was because he borrowed to the hilt. Did you know he borrowed more money and increased the debt more than Trump did? Even though Trump had the COVID year, like the majority of the bad COVID stuff, and had the majority of the shutdowns. And so the Biden administration solution to any problem was just print money. And now it's catching up to us. Caught up to us with inflation, and now it's catching up to us with the amount of interest we're paying on the debt. Trump's trying to fix that. And I didn't think he would. When I voted for him, I was not expecting this. I was actually not expecting Elon to come in and say, hey, we're going to cut $1 trillion off our budget. That's even them just saying that, I thought there's no way, because once you get people on the teat of the government, you try to get a dog off its mother, like when it's nursing, it's next to impossible. This is what most humans are like when they get government assistance. And it's next to impossible, but they're actually doing it. And yes, people are mad and they're angry, but who cares? It has to be done.
Does it? Why does it have to be done?
Because the amount of interest we're paying on our debt is actually higher than the amount we're paying on defense. And you should hate that, because you want our military strong like I do. And what ends up happening is that it crowds out the budget when you're paying so much interest on your debt that now you can't afford other things. And then you say, well, why don't we just print more money? Then you just make it worse and worse and worse, and eventually explodes.
Yeah, I don't know much about that, to be honest.
Right now we're paying interest on the interest of our debt.
Understood.
Yeah. I'll give you the last word. What do you want to say?
Quickly, we have a trade deficit. I'm going to rehash the argumentation. We have a trade deficit with Canada. That's bad because we're putting more money into Canada, but we're actually getting maybe more fishing goods from Canada or Mexico. That could be bad because we want to protect the industries here, jobs here. Why do we want to do that? Because unemployment rate for people under 25 is 10%. that was how we went from why are we doing this to Canada.
Yeah,
to,
that's not a bad summary.
okay.
Yep.
Alrighty. Thank you, PineCreek.
Yep. Thanks for the conversation. See ya.
Bye.
I think I know who this is. Is that you, Reed?
Oh, yeah.
No, it's not you.
I don't know.
What's your name?
Reed.
And where you're calling from?
Nice Wonder Farms.
Oh, where's Nice Wonder Farms? What state?
Virginia Vineyard.
Oh, okay. You Googled that in time. What would you like to talk about? Reed from Virginia.
I was thinking of just raising a few of the points that you talked about in the previous call.
Oh. You sound like you have a bit of a UK accent.
I don't know about all that.
I thought you were going to let me go.
What if I had a UK accent? What if a bomb landed on your head right now?
Yeah, well, I thought you were going to let me go, Nathan.
I can't. It's my toxic trait.
Well, you know, there's therapists for that.
But you know what they say about therapists?
Okay, I've been on for 2 hours, I think.
Oh, come on. That's
Oh man, I've been on for almost 3 hours, 2 hours, 48 minutes. What did you want to talk about?
I was going to raise some of the points that you had on your previous call. So, there were, obviously you like touched on all of the main talking points, right? But the first one was Ukraine, and what it makes sense to do there from the US's point of view. And I think that Trump's proposal, what's in it for Zelensky or for Ukrainians from your point of view? Like, what do you think they would get out of the deal that Trump put on the table?
Higher probability of less death.
And is that taking into account that Putin will probably restart the war in like 6 months' time?
Yep.
So how would that be less death?
Because you would have 6 months of less death.
Well, over like a 5-year period, right?
Yeah, that's still less death, right?
No, because it's not a flat rate, is it?
Well, 5 years of constant fighting versus 4.5 years of constant fighting, assuming the amount of death per week is a constant, then you would have less death.
I see how you think. Yeah, so I think that what would happen.
What happened to your forehead?
I put a suction cup on, and it made this like.
You gave yourself a hickey.
Yeah, basically. I really didn't expect it to do that, but I thought it was quite funny. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think it would be linear, because what would happen is without any defense guarantees, no peacekeeping force or anything like that, and the US not providing weapons to Ukraine to rearm, Russia would continue to spend the amount of GDP that they are spending on defense currently. They would just rearm, regroup, and then they would have a whole bunch of ammunition and kit ready to go, a bunch of waves of people ready, and then there'd be much more death. The rate of deaths would increase. The reason that there's a relatively constant rate of death at the minute is because, the front line's relatively stagnant, right? And then the other thing that would happen is Russia would probably gain a lot more ground in that scenario, which would also lead to,
Okay, let's be clear. Everything you just said is about the future, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, that you don't have a crystal ball and I don't have a crystal ball.
Oh, yeah, but I don't need a crystal ball to be able to make probabilistic assessments.
You know what?
If you don't have a crystal ball, then that undermines your ability to say what's in Ukraine's best interest as well, right? So.
Well, I do think, by definition, peace means less death. But But your main point is that you don't believe peace will happen. That's fine. We can agree to disagree. But you know what's fun about this is we could just role play. I tried this with another guy who disagreed with me, and it worked great. So you be Zelensky.
Well, just one more question on this then is that if Trump's intention is a peace deal, then why not have a defense guarantee?
Because you can't guarantee things that are out of your control.
Well, you can say, if this ceasefire is breached, then we will secure Ukrainian airspace, or we will put US troops on the ground, or we will give $300 billion in US weapons. Like, we'll empty the
this gets to the role playing gets to the role playing part because okay, do you want to try it? You be Zelensky, I'll be Trump. Okay, it'll be fun. We'll have fun. Okay, so thank you, Mr. Zelensky, for joining me.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to say thank you. Thank you to the American people. Thank you, Trump.
Oh, well, I appreciate your thank yous. But I would next time wear a tie, okay? Is there something you would like to say to me?
Yeah, maybe I wear a more expensive suit than you next time.
Is there something you want from the American people?
What I want is peace. I want peace. I want a defense guarantee and peace.
Okay, you want a defense guarantee. You can't have it.
Then what is in a deal with US for raw earth?
So here's the deal. I got my buddy here drew up a contract. It says you'll give me $500 billion worth of rare metals, and I will try my best to get a peace deal and have Putin stay away, but I won't guarantee it. And you can either sign it or go home. What do you want to do?
This makes no sense. Survey says it's not even 500 billion of rare earth metals in ground.
Do you want to sign it, or whatever it's worth?
Why would I sign contract to give you
have a good day, Zelensky,
for nothing?
Have a good day.
Okay, goodbye.
See, exactly. This is how it should have gone. This is what Trump should have said. He should have said, Zelensky, you can talk all you want. I am in a position to give you an ultimatum, not the other way around. Well, he said it, but I would have said
he said, you're gambling with World War III right now.
Yeah.
If it was him gambling.
But I wouldn't even have said that. I maybe you can view it as nicer or harsher. I don't know. But I would have just said to Zelensky, here's the contract. Read it. Either sign it or go home. Your choice.
Yeah, I mean, he could have done that, but then he wouldn't have got what he wanted, right? Which was to kind of have this spat on TV. And to appear strong and to make Zelensky look bad to his voting base. I think that all of those things were goals of, I mean, Vance in particular, I don't know how much thought that Trump would have put into it.
Yeah, but again, Zelensky, when it comes to the Americans, has no say, no power.
Sort of. I mean, obviously he can't legislate what America can do, but I think he's sort of like the one person fighting for democracy in the free world currently.
No, yes, EU.
Well, I mean, this comes on to another topic, right, that you discussed, which is why does the EU not have as strong of a defense force as it should? And this is partly because of US defense guarantees that have been put in place since the Second World War that are now being gone back on, right? If they hadn't been in place, then European countries would have obviously spent more on defense.
You be the EU, I'll be Trump again. So EU, how can I help you?
Well, we're cancelling all our F-35 programs and we're buying all Gripens, and every single program that we have with the US, we're cancelling. Get all of your personnel out of our countries, and that 150 billion we put into the US defense industry, bye, that's gone. Oh, and by the way, we're putting up our own Starlink, so SpaceX. Sorry, but all of the welfare that you got from the government is now worthless because you're being outcompeted by the EU.
Thank you, EU personnel or leader. I'm still Trump here, and I'm being Trump. I honestly believe Trump would answer this way. Good. Have a good day.
I mean, I'm sure he would, but that doesn't really matter, right?
No, it matters. He's the leader of the free world.
Well, it doesn't matter in terms of determining what's actually a good choice to make for the US. And that, I don't think that losing 150 billion worth of European money into the US defense industry is really something that the US should want to happen. I mean, maybe you do. Maybe you hate US industry, but I don't hate US industry.
No, that won't work. I mean, we can make that up quickly. I mean, the amount of money we put into NATO, the amount of money we put into.
How are you going to make it up? The US dollars.
No, we're going to not give Ukraine any more money, and that's probably 100 billion a year. So, what'd you say, 150 billion? Yeah, we'll make that up in a year and a half.
Well, here's the thing, actually. Around 70% of the money that you've given to Ukraine, is this old equipment that you have in storage that you've given to Ukraine. And then you've paid that money back to your own defense industry to procure new equipment.
True, yeah. It was
just actually a very good deal for the US. Like, why would you want to keep this rusting old equipment around when you can get brand new equipment and stimulate jobs and industry and so forth?
So we really haven't helped Ukraine then, have we?
No, you have helped, I think. But I mean, I think retrospectively, from Biden's point of view, rather than kind of drip feeding 200 Bradleys, you might go have 500 instead, or rather than giving them just enough to test the waters, you'd probably give them a lot more a lot sooner. Yeah, so I actually think that was a really good situation for the US economy, because there's so much. You're basically just paying yourself, right? Getting rid of your old stuff and paying yourself and getting new stuff. I can't really see a downside for the US there.
Okay, well, you're not changing my mind.
Okay, I mean, I think that you probably should change your mind based on just the economic arguments, the peace arguments as well. In terms of the course of action that Trump's taking, that's more likely to lead to destabilization and breakout of, wide-scale war, rather than just keeping the border this kind of like grinding halt, where I think it would take Russia 80 years to reach Kiev. Instead, making it so European countries have to get involved, and then European troops will probably...
The U.S. position is not to help the Ukraine any longer unless they sign this deal with no guarantees.
I understand that. I'm saying that I think that that's a bad choice for the U.S.
It doesn't matter what you think if it's bad or good.
Right.
This is the way it is.
I know that that's the way it is, but I think that...
Then why do you keep talking?
Because I thought you were rational.
Well, that doesn't work either. You can't.
I forgot you've got.
You can't use that baiting rhetoric with me. I'm Trump.
It's not a debate. Yeah, I know it's not a. Well, because you'd look so strong, wouldn't you? Imagine if you sent. Biden tried his best, and he could only send 200. Imagine how strong the ape would have to be to send 500. Big strong ape send 500.
Yeah, I think EU, or are you Zelensky or are you EU? You're Zelensky right now. Go ask your EU neighbors to help you.
Macron say he's stronger than you, ape. Is Macron stronger than you, ape?
Oh, it doesn't matter what he says.
Macron make better deal than Trump.
Then go for him. See, this is the problem I think you Europeans have. You think you have some leverage against America. You don't.
Well, I think we do. It's just that you're sort of...
You can think that, but then you'd be wrong.
Well, no, that's not true. Like, your economy is already suffering in various ways. You've lost hundreds of years worth of soft power that you will never gain back.
Right. You let us go down then.
Well, I mean... The problem is that it also hurts other economies too at the same time. And also, while around 30% or less of the US...
You're saying you're dependent on the US?
Around 30% or less of the US population voted for something like this. There's a lot of Americans who don't...
Well, it doesn't matter. I'm in power.
Well, I mean, okay, I just believe in the Second Amendment, so that's why I care about.
Sure, you can have your speech, you can have whatever you want, but it doesn't change anything.
Yeah. So I mean, is your whole argument just boiled down to I'm very stubborn and I'm irrational?
No, the argument is this: whoever's the most powerful gets to make the rules.
Right, but then do you see how the only option you're leaving open is rebellion and revolt? Second Amendment, armed militia, come and kill you. That is the only option you're leaving open to people.
The majority of Americans already agree with me.
Less than 30%.
No, that's incorrect.
Yes, less than 30%.
No.
And
Are we talking about Ukraine?
With regards to the question, though, do you see how what you've done in this political discourse is reject rational discussion and leave violence as the only avenue that's open?
No, I'm for peace.
Yeah, but that doesn't agree with the actions that you're taking.
Sure, if we give Russia Crimea and Donbass.
Well, I'm talking about in America, though, as well. I'm talking about in terms of what's happening in America, how the only option, if you just disregard what the vast majority of the population want, the only option you leave open to them is armed rebellion and violence.
Oh, really? You think the vast majority of people want us spending money in Ukraine?
I don't know about U.S. attitudes on that.
Well, then why did you say 30% then?
Because around 30% of the U.S. population voted for Trump, and fewer than that wanted the policies that he's putting in place.
Okay, but I thought we were talking about Ukraine.
I mean, that's one of the policies, right? Though, I mean, the actions that he's taking are not what he promised. He said that
I could say the same thing what you just said about Biden.
He said that he would, have peace from day one, which he's not done. And he said he had concepts of a plan, which is, I mean, I guess what we're seeing, right, is concepts of a plan. There was another point that you raised where I think that there's some evidence in favor of the position that you wanted to take, which is that there was a Gallup poll survey of the Ukrainian population in November of last year. And the question that was asked to people was, do you agree or disagree that Ukraine should be open to making some territorial concessions as part of a peace deal to end the war? So 38% disagreed, 10% didn't know, but 52% agreed with the statement. So at that point in time, the majority of Ukrainians were open to territorial concessions as part of a peace deal, which I think is right. And so, yeah, but I don't think anyone is really making the argument that Ukraine wouldn't make any territorial concessions in a peace deal. They just want some kind of defense guarantee, which I think is really the rational thing for them to do. The other thing was on the trade war stuff. So you mentioned how GDP is calculated, right? Yeah. So obviously exports and imports play a role in GDP, but GDP is also takes into account consumption. So if imports are a part of consumption, then they essentially can set each other off, right?
Yep.
So having a trade deficit isn't necessarily a bad thing. And in a globalized economy, it can actually be an indication of a strong economy where you have lots of consumers who want to buy things.
I think you're right. I think there should be a trade deficit, but Canada should have it.
But why do you think that?
Why do you think US should have it?
What is the US manufacturing that Canada should want?
Well, it's irrelevant. Why do you think?
Well, it is directly relevant to the economics of trade, right? I mean,
a specific industry. No,
nothing. And
you're getting into a specific industry. I could bring up another specific industry. You just made the argument that trade deficit could be good, right?
Oh yeah, it could be good.
Okay,
yeah,
so let's try it with Canada for a few years. Let them have the deficit.
What good?
Huh?
On what? So the reason that it's specifically good for the US right now is because of the strength of US wages and the US being a consumer-based economy and the globalized nature of supply chains. So, most supply chains have moved outside of the US, so these goods end up being imported. And with respect to the relationship with Canada, right, most of the natural resources that are used in US industries are in Canada. So things like, timber, oil, potash, fertilizer stuff, all coming from Canada, right? And that's what the US wants. But the other way around it's not the case that the US has this stuff to export. Now, part of what Trump's economic plan is to try and bring industry back to the US in some way. There are questions that you can raise about that. It's not necessarily a bad thing in and of itself, but it's not the case that you can just magically pop up industry. All of the infrastructure around it, the skills, the supply chains and things are already in place. They don't just magically appear out of nowhere. And you have this retaliatory effect as well, which, yes, it hurts both sides, but it's also going to hurt the US in a significant way. Like, for example, farmers are going to be hurt so much in the US by tariffs from Canada on fertilizer. And I think that farmers are also going to lose a lot of their government subsidies that they depend upon as well, because of, Doge, which is another thing that you're in favor of. If they can even, keep the payment system going, which they've tampered with and clearly don't understand. I actually found a report the other day from 2018, which documented exactly why the payments that go to the people who are over 200 years old happen. And I don't know why I can find that as someone whose job it isn't, but the person who's full-time responsible for this can't find this 2018 document to understand the COBOL system that they have in place there as well. So it just seems like incompetence and inefficiency, like every scale that you look at these problems.
Okay. You realize you talk like for minutes, and then I say something for 5 seconds, and you talk for minutes, and I say something for 5 seconds.
Right. So what?
I'm just a
length of sentence equals
No. I'm letting you know. I'm just allowing you to talk.
Well, thank you. Length of sentence equals true.
And 60% of Canada's economy is consumer spending as well, by the way.
Length of sentence equals true.
Sure, whatever you say. What I love is that you're just completely powerless, and you can talk, but it doesn't do anything. Like, same with your government. You can talk, but you
talk started the American Revolution, Doug.
But you can whine, you can complain, but at the end of the day, the United States is going to do what the United States is going to do. So you got to assume the worst case scenario as a UK resident and take steps to become independent from the United States as much as possible. And if you want to save Ukraine, then you got to take steps as the EU to do what you need to do if the United States stays out of it. And that's that.
Yeah, I think King George III says something very similar about taxes on tea in the US in the 1700s.
Okay.
You can whine and complain, but who cares?
Yeah, and then they had a war, right? And
yeah.
Guess who won? We
the
beat your butts.
People who care about freedom and truth won. Fortunately, in that situation.
Okay. See, the thing is, like, you can say language like that, but it doesn't do anything. Like, I can just say, okay, we don't care about freedom and truth. Now what?
Well, I think that it does do a lot. I mean, you're right that. So the idea that just pure access to information is the same as power, I think, is a mistake. But I do think the idea at the core of the American ideal, at least, is that there's something about that spread of information and political ideas that can incite people to disrupting power.
Do you want a civil war in the United States?
I'm not sure where it's going, but it depends on what happens. I can foresee it coming to a point where, if that is not what the Second Amendment is for in the US Constitution, then it has no business being in the Constitution at all.
Do you honestly think there'd be a civil war over Ukraine? No.
No, I'm not saying over Ukraine, no, but over over the deconstruction of the government, over the deconstruction of the Constitution, yes.
Yeah, the majority of people support Doge.
I actually don't think that this is correct. I'm not sure where you.
They don't support necessarily Elon, but they support the department.
Well, I'm not sure what you are measuring there. Like, I mean, maybe you're measuring questions about like cutting back government funding or something rather than Doge's specific
No,
policies.
I saw a poll just the other day, and they used the word Doge like purposely. And that, like, what's your feelings about Doge? Let's see if I can find it up.
Sure. Yeah, I'm not too sure about that. I would be surprised, even if that were high, I would be surprised if it continued to be high, particularly as like poor MAGA voters are affected by payments around healthcare and things not going out to them. Them not being able to have their kids go to school or receive certain kinds of benefits and things that they previously were able to or needed to survive. I think that as this stuff begins to affect them, their opinions will change, even if they are high. But
yeah, that's the future again. Trying to predict it.
Yeah, but I mean, 6 months, right? It's barely been 3, and you've already lost all of the Dow Jones gains for the year. So I'm sure
I love that.
I know. But what would Doug of a few years ago said?
Same thing.
I don't think that's right.
No, it's true.
Do you not have like a pension invested in an accumulator fund or something?
Yeah, but most of my money is in cash right now and real estate and bonds.
Cash, even though he's devaluing the dollar.
Yeah, but I've been hoping for this to happen. That's why I'm ecstatic.
So why do you have your money in cash though?
So I can buy stocks when a market goes down.
Okay. Yeah. What did I just see, actually? Something that you might be interested in was the S&P compared to the dollar price. Yeah, US dollar versus S&P 500.
67% view the federal debt as unsustainable. 60% say Doge is helping make major cuts. 58% support giving Doge access to sensitive data. 72% Democrats favor reducing government expenditures. Whoa, that's surprising. A Harvard Caps Harris poll cited on March 6, 2025 found that 76% of Americans approve of Doge's efforts to investigate government spending, suggesting strong mainstream support. Put that in your pipe and smoke it.
Yeah, that is. I mean, it is surprising to me. I don't know how the question has been asked there, or how people are interpreting the question. Even
now, you're questioning the poll.
Yes, because how polls are conducted can be massively misleading, particularly when polls indicate political facts. Right? We know.
Okay, let's just assume. Let's just assume that the majority, you got to be the pollster and frame the question any way you want, and you found the result is that the vast majority, or just say a majority, the majority of Americans support what Doge is doing.
Well, I mean, depends on is that the question? Do you support what Doge is doing?
Yeah. Well, what question would you ask?
For example, I would ask questions around people having their private data taken, around having 19-year-olds interact with these COBOL systems. I'd have to phrase it in a way where it makes sense to someone who doesn't understand.
So you would ask questions to make it look to get answers that would make Doge look bad.
Yeah, of course. Just like you'd ask them to make Doge look good.
No, if you ask a question like, do you support what Doge is doing?
What does that mean? What they're doing?
In seeking out wasteful government spending.
Yeah, I mean, that's do you support what Doge is doing in preventing child murder? I mean, insofar as they're doing that, yes, do you support what Nazi Germany is doing in preventing murder and enforcing the law against murder? Yes.
I think what's hard for you is the majority of Americans agree with Trump on so many specific issues. There's some that they don't.
How many people voted for Trump?
How many people voted for Trump? Was it 80 million?
No, in terms of percent.
49 point something.
So how much? So I think you're thinking of voters, not of the population. I'm talking about.
Oh my goodness, Nathan!
Why won't you answer?
I don't know the answer. It's 80 million divided by how many voters are there? 250 million?
So
What was that?
US election 2024.
This is so hilarious to me. I could say this. Okay, we'll
Well-
finish.
well,
We'll finish this
maybe
conversation. Then
Be more dead inside, Doug. Put
we'll
down.
no. It's funny to me. It's entertaining. It's
Well, good. Then you're happy.
we can do this for Trump, and then we can immediately do it for Biden in 2020, and we can do it for Obama or Trump again in 2016, and Obama in 2008 and 2012. The same thing can be said about each of these presidents, that they get, if you're actually gauging how many people in the country voted for Trump, not just of the total of voters, but of all the people.
Right.
Is that what you're asking? Like babies too?
Yeah. Well, voter eligible population actually, but
Okay, so voter eligible, and given that only 50% of people vote, so what you're trying to do is you're trying to say something like, Trump doesn't have the support you think he does, Doug, because only
Which is
30% people voted for
Well,
Trump.
yeah.
And then I can say, well, that holds true for Biden in 2020.
Sure, but
and
I wouldn't try to misrepresent the state of affairs to people and say that this is what 70% of Americans want.
And what about polling data? You don't view that? You don't trust that? Is it a
No, I
representative
do trust
sample?
that when I understand like how the
question.
study was conducted and what the
As
question.
long as you ask the question like, what do you think about the risk of you having identity fraud?
No, it can also prove me wrong. It can disagree with beliefs I have. I just want to understand if it was conducted in a fair way.
Okay, so the question you asked for a poll, when that question I asked you, you said something like, well, maybe we should ask people how they feel about Elon Musk having access to Social Security numbers. You said something like that.
I think that would be a pretty neutral framing, but in terms of like other questions, I'd be interested in a broad spectrum of questions, some of them phrased positively and some negatively, to kind of like compare people's different responses. So, some of them would be to do with the like age and expertise of the people involved and the systems that they're tinkering with. Some of them would be like phrased more positively in terms of like searching for corruption and auditing government expenses and things like that.
Do you disagree? Do you think Trump has the majority of American support on immigration?
I reckon that one is probably closer to maybe like 50-50 or 60-40 or something like that, would be my intuition.
How about men in women's sports?
I don't know. I'm guessing you mean by that trans people in
males and female sports.
Or just because male can refer to someone's gender as well.
What? I thought male was a biological term.
No,
not anymore. That's changed.
No, it's not that it changed. It's just that language is polysemous in both cases. So yeah, I mean, I don't know of these like 10 NCAA trans athletes what American attitudes are towards them, but I think maybe people feel very strongly about keeping these 10 trans athletes out of competition.
10 trans athletes.
That's how many there are registered with the NCAA.
NCAA?
Yeah, there's 500,000 registered athletes, and there's 10 trans athletes. So Trump's executive orders, I think there were more girls.
But Nathan, we care about truth, so those are the ones registered. We don't know how many are not registered.
I think there were more girls in the PR photo of him signing the order than there are trans athletes in the US, which is a fun fact.
Yeah, it's such a small issue. It's like, why do we even care about trans people, right?
Well, I think why, right? Because it's very easy to sling hate at marginalized people. And particularly if you can get people to feel very emotional about.
What's a marginalized person?
A community that is already misunderstood, derided, hated.
You're describing me.
I don't think I am. Not by society, not by society at large.
Okay, sorry, I was being facetious. Go ahead. You said a marginalized person is
But
someone.
if you came out though, Doug, no.
A marginalized person is someone who's been derided and what?
For example, someone who is so I mean, you're going to want a more precise criteria here.
No,
So
I'll be
who's
easy on you.
statistically more at risk of violent crime against them. Someone who there might be laws discriminating against them in various ways. Someone who might be discriminated against in terms of like job applications or mortgage applications or something like that. So we can kind of operationalize it that way.
Oh, so that would include some white people who don't get jobs because they're white?
Potentially, yeah.
Oh, so white people can be marginalized. Excellent.
Yeah, I mean, anyone could be in principle marginalized against, yes.
Okay.
Like people could be marginalized for any, random reason that you could describe about them.
I agree. Kind of takes away the value of the word though, right?
No, I don't think so, because we're talking about describing who is actually marginalized against, not who, like in principle. It's like saying, I don't know, if John across the road robbed you, and then we said, yeah, but in principle, anyone could rob you, right? Like you wouldn't go. So that takes away the value of you.
So can we look at someone's skin color and determine if they're marginalized or not, or do we need more information?
That is some information that will that has some predictive accuracy. So we should sort of update based on that information. But I think the question that you're asking is how much of an update is that? Or
yeah, like if you see someone on the street just based on their skin color, can you tell if they're marginalized or not?
I think that in terms of what you should believe, what are you asking me when you ask me, can we tell? Are you saying, can I never get it wrong? Or something?
No, I'm asking, would that be a good assumption or a good thing to say, a good reasonable thing to say? I see a black person on the street, they're marginalized. Is that fair? Or
I reckon it should probably tilt you, if you know nothing else about them other than their skin color, it should probably tilt you 60% towards marginalized.
Okay. So when people look at my son, they should 60% say
if they know nothing else about him, they should initially think that, yeah. When they find out that, the dad lives in a gated community in Arizona, then they should probably become, way less, down to like 30%.
Okay. And when you see a white person on the street, it's not 60% marginalized, it's what?
I mean, the problem is, just to say in terms of what we're imagining here, right? Like we're imagining that a scenario where we have no other information,
right,
which is very unrealistic. If you imagine that you're in Detroit or something and you see a white person, maybe you're going to think this person is probably actually quite poor. And so the point is that the information, the contextual information, is going to play a role. Similarly, if you're in like a gated community, or if you're in like the richest part of New York or something and you see a black person, then probably that update from them being black isn't going to do a whole lot, right? Because there's other information.
So we shouldn't base whether someone's marginalized or not just simply based on skin color.
Not simply based on that, though. That, like I said, if we're making
guesses, it can help, but we probably shouldn't rely on it. It's
some information, and it depends at what scale we're talking about as well. So, for example, if we're talking at the population level, then that is probably going to be an effect that that's probably going to be a category that we can find effects in that can drive things like, policy nudges that we might want to put in place or things like that. Even if at the individual level, it might be, very bad information, at the population level, it might be very good information.
Policy like DEI?
Yeah, policy like DEI.
So when we're looking for, if we really care about diversity, equity, and inclusion, we shouldn't just base it on skin color. We should get to know the context, right?
It depends. I think in the context of like population level policy, that DEI policy can encourage like social mobility in a way that a policy of purely individual based, whatever that's supposed to mean, policy wouldn't. And I think that part of that is going to be because individual-based policy actually becomes a reflection of the norms of power that are already in place, which would be white faculty having a bias towards white students or people with names like them and things like that, rather than evaluating merit.
Like, would my son qualify for DEI?
I don't think so, because I think it's often.
Even though
I mean,
he's
I don't
black?
know. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know a lot about how it's done in the US, but I can only talk in the UK context. But you know, on your typical kind of like demographic survey in the UK, you have, you know, this is where intersectionality is important. You have a number of metrics that at the population level are highly predictive of bad outcomes.
My son has it the worst, because not only is he black, but he's not even considered black because of his daddy.
Well, one of the criteria that they would take into account in the UK, for example, would be the educational level of your parents, and also like the job role of your parents. Like, do they have like a clerical role, or do they have, you know, like a managerial role, or do they like run businesses themselves? And you piece together more of an informative picture based off of, you know, more and more of these sorts of details.
So it sounds like
even
class.
postcode
It sounds that more like economic class status would be better than skin color then.
Basically, but skin color is being used as a proxy for that. But yeah, I mean, if you want to say it's all really just class warfare, and that the bourgeois need to rise up against the capitalist class, if those are your words, Doug, I won't stop.
Well, no, you admitted it. You said the economic class is better than skin color, right? You said that, right?
Yeah, I did say that.
Yeah. So maybe we should stick to DEI, but just forget about skin color and go to economic class.
Well, the thing is, how do you find out about economic class, right?
Ask them.
Well, how would it? What if I say, what's your economic class?
Most people have a good general idea. They say lower class, middle class, upper middle class, upper class.
So there's what, 4 categories?
Or we can even ask for income tax returns.
Well, this is sort of what I'm saying.
This
right,
is what they do with
ask
universities with getting loans.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying about why you ask about things like postcode, parental income, stuff like that. I agree. Like, more information is better for driving these sorts
So
of
we
decisions.
should say, we should look at someone, like if you and I were running a DEI department, we should say, you know what, we really don't care what your skin color is. We need more information. We need to know about your parents, their education, where you were raised, that sort of thing. Who cares if you're black? Who cares if you're Hispanic? Who cares if you're gay?
No, not that. So we
No?
say, we care if you're gay, we care if you're black, and we care about what your parents earned, and we care about the neighborhood you grew up in, and we care about the access you had.
Why should we care about their skin color if they come from an affluent society?
Because skin color does play a role in certain effects, in terms of ways that people may have been judged, or like their names being discriminated against on applications.
Yeah, but they can handle it. They were raised affluent. You know, if someone calls my son the N-word, he laughs it off.
Yeah, but we're talking about that's great for your son, but
Right, because he comes from an affluent class. So we need to ask about class.
I know, but we're making decisions at the population level here, and also because in this case we'd be gathering.
That's racist. We don't make decisions on a population level. That'd be racist. We make decisions on an individual basis.
No,
when it comes to DEI,
policies have to be at a population level. You can't have like an institutional policy.
Well, no, the policy is we implement DEI, but when the actual implementation happens, we'd go on a case by case basis, because we can't just say, "Oh, you're black, you must be marginalized." No, you and I both agree. No, we need more. We need to know. Well, maybe we were raised in Bel Air. I don't know.
Yeah. So what I think I've come up with though is a way to effectively operationalize useful information about that individual basis. And I think that what you're encouraging is like vibes-based analysis, which is like not as good as having...
No, not vibes. We could actually ask for tax returns, what your parents make, what schools did you go to.
That's what I'm asking for.
Yeah, we're agreed, yeah.
Whether or not someone's gay.
Yes, right? So we're agreed. We don't actually focus on skin color. We need more.
We also focus on skin color. And
why?
So do you think that the class... So for example...
Why? Because
it makes a difference.
No, because if someone can be black and not marginalized, and we want to help marginalized people, then we need to figure out what type of black are they? Are they a marginalized black or a non-marginalized black?
Yeah, I agree, and the information can help us do that, but it's still relevant to have that piece of information because it's also possible for someone to meet certain criteria and be marginalized black, right? And in order to have a picture of that, we need to build up the statistical picture with actual
But who
empirical
cares
data.
if they're marginalized black and they're wealthy?
I care, that, and you're asking me about my policies, so.
No, I mean like for that individual. So let's say my son,
was marginalized black and wealthy.
yeah, and you talk to my son, and
I'd like your son to have better outcomes rather than worse outcomes.
Yeah, but you say to my son, oh, by the way, you're black in society, so you're marginalized in some extent, and my son goes, I don't care.
Yeah, and I'd say, well, you're PineCreek son, so of course you'd say that.
Yeah, but if he's not being hurt psychologically by being marginalized, if he grows up to be upper middle class and he's just fine and he's still considered marginalized, who cares if he's marginalized at that point?
Well, it depends on what the policy actually says in particular, right? But I can conceive of cases where this really would matter. So, for example, if we were thinking about like stop and search by the police, like being pulled over or something like that, I think it would be pretty important because the police officer who
the police love my son. Did I tell you the story? He got pulled over the other night at 12 midnight. I told him, don't drive after midnight because nothing good happens after midnight. He got pulled over. He was wearing makeup because he just came from the theater, like not girly makeup, but just makeup. He's a real man. Yeah. And so, so imagine this. He went through a yellow light, gets pulled over because it was like close, and rolls down the window. And here my son's looking kind of weird because he has this makeup on. And he's black, and he ended up. He and the officer had a great talk, and he invited the officer to come to his next show. My son was trained properly on how to deal in those situations. My son is charismatic. He knows how to talk. He's respectful. All these things. He's not marginalized. I dare the cops to pull him over. I mean, they'll end up loving him.
I mean. Have you looked at like the statistics of how many black people
that's
get?
That's not because they're black. It's because they weren't raised well.
How have you figured that out from the data? That's not what the data say.
Well, you actually agree with that when I say things like you can't just judge someone as being marginalized by their skin color. Because you don't know things like how they're raised, how they've been educated, how they know how to react in certain situations, right? You have to take a case-by-case basis.
I think that this is just like what you're saying here is like kind of vague. In terms of like, yes, having as much information as possible helps you to make a more accurate assessment, obviously. Like, I don't know why you think I disagree with that. Then in terms of which features of a person account for the greatest amount of variance in effects that we might care about, then those are going to be the ones that if we have a policy we care about measuring for. And of course we're talking about statistical distributions here, so they're not going to capture everyone, right? But if we get everyone within 2 standard deviations in the policy, well, then that's great. You're muted, by the way.
Sorry, I really got to go. It's been 3.5 hours.
Right.
I gave you like 45 minutes here at least, right?
So one thing that you mentioned.
Don't give me that. One more thing. No. Let's just end it with this. We're kind of friendly right now.
Your destroy NATO idea was very bad. Because again, all it's doing is it's making a military bloc that, you incorrectly the other day added up the numbers of military personnel, which I hope is a mistake you regret or won't make again. But, you're creating a defense industry that is going to rival the US's defense industry, and a new military power bloc that will rival the US's power and is relatively hostile towards it. So
wait, say what you just said again. Rivals what?
You're creating a new military bloc that rivals the US's power will, or at least will rival the US's power.
Crystal ball, yeah.
It doesn't have to be crystal ball, just in terms of like, the way you need a marginal defense spending increase to be on par with the US's defense spending. In terms of personnel, EU plus UK already exceeds the US. And in terms of technology, there's, their protective shield, talking about them being the 51st state when Mark Carney said, "We never want to be Americans," seems like a really bad idea. I just can't see what's in it really for the US. And also Trump has mentioned increasing the debt ceiling, right? He has asked to increase the debt ceiling by 4 trillion, I believe. Maybe I've got that wrong. Yeah, 4 trillion. And I think that the most recent news is he's also asking for an increase in the federal budget. So, all this talk of cuts and bringing down the deficit as well just seems to not be true if those are the sort of wins that we're grasping for with Trump.
Okay, that was the last word.
Great. Well, thanks for giving me the last word. I appreciate it as always. Grateful as ever. That wasn't a rhetorical trick. Thank you.
Okay, see ya. Oh man, my phone was ringing and playing music. Oh, he's gonna hate me when he watches this back. Okay, let me play the outro music, focus on the chat a little bit. I'm kind of depressed right now because I just realized just how bad my son will have it, and my daughter. They're black and they won't even consider black, so they'll be punished like a white person and not even felt sorry for like a black person. Oh, terrible. But they can handle it because they've been taught well. My mama learned me real good. I honestly thought he was going to be Reed, but I caught on pretty quick. Yeah, I do play chess, Icy Pirate. Or at least I did. I haven't played in a while. I got rid of my chess.com account because, I was busy and just a reminder that last time Nate called Trump and Elon Nazis, well, his screen name was From the River to the Sea. Yeah. Gotta kill those Jews. Oh, I can't say that, can I? That was me pretending to be someone else, YouTube. I love the Jews. Nobody loves the Jews more than I do. And I respect the Jews so much that I put the word "the" in front of Jews. True story. I think if I ever become a theist again, I'd become a Jew. They started the whole mess. Well, them and the Hindus. In modern history. Yeah, demonetized now. I think I'd make a good Jew. I wouldn't be Orthodox. I'd be one of those atheist Jews that's cool, funny, hip. Tovia Singer would love me. He goes, yeah, that PineCreek guy, he's one good Jew. He's not, blood Jew, but out of all the Gentile Jews, he's the best Gentile Jew. The Chappelle bit. Yeah. I actually have been to Hollywood. Reed, who we were just talking about, is from Hollywood. He has a condo there. And I tell you, when I was in Hollywood, let me tell you, there was a lot of Jews. Thanks, Kathy. Hope life is going well in Alberta, Canada. That Andrew guy you debated has been blowing up all over mainstream media, Doug. What Andrew guy? Oh, Crucible. And yeah. That guy? The Crucible guy? Yeah. He's very talented at what he does. Seriously, he's a very good debater. And I think what helps him, and Andrew, if you hear this, don't ever stop smoking. That helps. I mean, if I was to smoke, my viewership would go up. Can you imagine me debating Nathan on all this DEI garbage and I'm smoking? Yeah, I don't care about the blacks. No. I love the blacks. No one loves the blacks like I do. Yeah, don't ask him to do apologetics. He actually did some apologetics or some theist stuff with somebody else, but he wouldn't do it with me. I think there's actually a hidden assumption between me and some Christian Republicans that we'll leave you alone, Doug, if you leave us alone when it comes to theism. Because we agree so much on the politics. Poof. My apologies to Prime Minister Carney from Canada. He was scheduled to come on the program. Newly appointed. But we ran out of time.